Ah, she's a scene stealer. Are you going to help me do my intro? You are. You've been a real pain in the ass. You're a teenage dog, and you're killing me. Okay, so you're going to help me? Just going to get comfortable first. Anyway, this episode I thought was really great. I have two friends who are real estate agents. One just sold us the house we just bought, and the other one I know from preschool. Their names are Kendra and Alex, and I think we had a very helpful podcast about buying real estate, selling real estate, their role in both processes, what you should look for a good agent, a bad agent, what you should talk about before you start buying a house. It was a really helpful podcast. So for anybody who's never bought a house or a condo or a piece of land, or for someone who's had a bad experience, maybe this would be helpful to hear two ladies who clearly have the right intentions and some good skills talk to you about their industry. It's definitely something we all need if you're going to buy a piece of property. You need someone who knows what they're doing. So anyway, I found this all very informative and helpful and interesting, and I hope you do too. So if you know anybody who's looking to buy a house or sell a house and they could use this information, please pass it on. And I hope for those of you who are not interested in this at all, I hope it wasn't too, snooze fest. Maybe it was still interesting anyway. And maybe buying a house is down the line for you, and it'll be something that you can draw from later. But thanks for coming back every week. Thanks for indulging me in what I want to learn about and talk about. It's been so fun, this whole podcasting process. So thank you for coming back every week. And thank you so much for the people who email and say, I thought this was going to be a really boring podcast and it wasn't. That makes me so happy because I don't ever want anybody to be bored. Not that you can't just turn it off, but yeah, I hope every conversation is engaging and interesting no matter the subject matter. So thank you for the emails that come in that say, hey, I'm a guy. I have no interest in Girl Scouts, but your Girl Scout episode was fun. So that's awesome. That's the point. So thanks for coming back every week. I hope you enjoy this episode with Alex and Kendra about real estate. There's a store in Anniston, Alabama, because we go back to Alabama every year, called Dirt Cheap.
Oh, I love
that my kids think are it's the most amazing store because it is a store. It's a salvage store. Do you know what this is?
Yeah,
from properties?
From retailers. So like if Target in Minnesota has a flood, they have to empty their whole store, and Dirt Cheap takes all of their inventory. So we were buying, they do it for any retailer. So I was buying like Gap leggings for $2.
Oh my gosh.
And they're brand new tags on them, like regular price tag still on them. We went to that store and my kids were like, oh, the heavens have opened. They had like Fitbits and...
I'm okay. This is good.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
He'll tell you. Halston will tell you to come closer.
It's so nice to meet him finally.
Yeah, I know. Halston's all world famous and whatever. That's the portrait, right?
That's the portrait.
That's my man.
I love it.
I know. You don't see it on camera, I don't think, in our episodes. So people probably don't even know what we're talking about. We should at one point pan up. Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I heard about it the last one.
Yeah.
I saw that.
If you're worried, there's a
So
blanket
funny.
you can cover your...
No, I think I'm
modest.
good. I don't think you can
Cover your knees. Well, I'm so excited to have you ladies today. Kendra and Alex are, Kendra helped us buy our most recent purchase, our house, which was a big deal. And Alex and our children went to preschool together.
Yeah, long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Too long to think about.
Yeah, right.
So you have a high schooler, right?
Yes. You too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me
Right.
too.
You
They
too?
just didn't go to school with your kids.
That's right. That's right. So we knew each other from preschool, and Alex called me last week,
Yeah.
and we just chatted.
You popped into my head because I had watched one of your episodes.
Oh, okay.
And then I have Sirius, so I listen to Netflix as a joke on the radio all the time. So he comes on every now and then.
Yeah, he does.
Tells crazy stories about your family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So,
Bet you didn't know that when we were in preschool together. It's probably good. It's probably good.
No.
Probably a good thing. Did you hear the story about Isla going to their Sunshine Shack? I can say they're no longer at the Sunshine Shack, but they went to the Sunshine Shack.
Yeah.
And Isla has sensory processing problems. So underwear has until middle school was a no-go. No underwear.
Oh,
so we would make her wear like little bike shorts,
Right.
which she could tolerate, but she couldn't tolerate underwear. So one day we got a call from the shack because she was on a swing in a dress with no underwear.
no.
And Bert was like, "What were you thinking?" She was like, "I was just airing myself out, Dad. I was just airing it out." And we're like, "Oh my God, you're maybe 4. I don't know if this is a good thing that you're thinking this way or not." But yeah, she was on swing, just skirt flying. I'm sure
Was
Miss
that-
Christina or whoever was like, yeah. Let's get off the swing.
We need to fix that. Were you got was that issue resolved when you were at elementary too? Was she there?
never went to.
She was probably too young, right?
She was.
Okay.
We moved here to this neighborhood when Isla was still at the shack, but like the last half of her 4-year-old year.
Oh,
So we
okay.
finished out and for first grade for Georgia and 4-year-old for Isla. And then she started kindergarten here. And at kindergarten, actually, I think after that moment, we were like, we just need to check and make sure she has the bike shorts on. Because you just, I'm sure it was helping her get dressed, but somehow had an incomplete moment and then sent her off to school. Or maybe her dad was getting her dressed and was like, fuck it, you don't need panties. Who needs panties? I could totally see him doing that. I understand. Because he has the sensory processing too.
Oh, okay.
So he completely understands how she feels, like how she feels mentally, emotionally with the sensory stuff. So who knows? But I know I started lifting her skirt and making sure she had something on after that. When she fixed it, was going to middle school because in middle school she has PE uniforms and they're very baggy shorts. And she's not allowed to wear bike shorts under them.
Oh.
So I knew that because our daughter had gone to the same middle school. So in the summer before, I said, we need to start practicing wearing legit panties because you're
Smart
going to
to do
have
that.
to wear panties. And she did the math of like, yeah, I can't really get away with this. So we had to buy, I swear to you, the biggest granny panties. They start at her belly button waist and they're the biggest. I hold them up in the laundry. They're like at least a foot long. They're so big. And so now when I buy panties, I have to buy literally like extra small old lady panties. Literally in the like old lady departments. They're just huge, but that's all she can tolerate. She can't, if something's going to hit her waist, it can't hit somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
So if the gym shorts are hitting her at her waist, the panties have to hit the same place. So she can't have bikini panties and a waistband. That's no good. Then she comes undone. So to get everything right at the waist. So now she's buying her pants based on where her panties hit her. So she's got to buy everything. It's such a puzzle, I
God.
swear.
Yeah.
Kids are so crazy. Anyway, this
Yes.
is not why we came here. But as you listen to my podcast, I don't always stay on topic, right?
Right.
That's
Makes
what-
it more fun.
I was going
right?
to say, that's why it's so good.
It's a real conversation.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so real estate. What did you do before you sold real estate? Alex, what did you do before?
I started off as a journalist. And so I grew up here and I went to UCSB. And so I started off after college working for the local paper up there. It's called the Santa Barbara Independent. And then I moved to New York and I worked for various magazines, freelancing, wherever I could get work, and wound up being full-time in the copy department of Entertainment Weekly. And then I would freelance for like New York Times and Elle and Glamour and all that. And then I got into documentary film there and I started working for various PBS productions like Slavery and the Making of America Told in 200 Hours, like big, like those PBS-y kind of things. And then when we moved out here in 2008, I think 7 or 8, I had the second one here, Hazel, she's my second. And then I did a documentary about girls' education in the developing world. And that was based out of here. And then after that ended, it aired and it was a big deal. It was a really fun, it was a 3-year long thing. I got burned out and I had 2 kids and I was like, what am I doing? And so my husband was suggesting, he's like, maybe we should look into like an investment property, like just to see. And we wound up being able to buy a place in Atwater. I don't know if, do you know Atwater?
Yeah, I know Atwater.
It's a really cute
neighborhood,
east side of LA. It's got a great walking strip, and it was a duplex and like front house, back house. And I spent a few months fixing it up and then renting them out. And I wound up like a lot of friends of mine were like, how do I do that? Can you help me? And I wound up like passing on a lot of referrals to my agent, who I adore to this day. And I was looking at real estate more and more and more. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to look into the test, kind of more from an investment perspective. But then after getting my license, then I started working with, then buyers started popping up. Although it's tough, I'm sure, as you know, it's like hard once you have your license, you think, I know so many people. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wait, they're not. Actually, this is their biggest asset. They may not want to go with the person who just got their license, even if you were a good friend. So anyway, that's how it started for me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Second career,
totally.
That's great story. I'm always fascinated how people enter into what they're doing, because most of the time you don't graduate high school and start your job, or graduate college, start your job and stay there, right? It's always a progression for most people into where they are today. And you may not sell real estate forever. 10 years from now, you may go, you know what, I'm just going to flip houses or go back to documentary filmmaking. That's just so fascinating to me. That's really interesting that you came at it from being an investor, really. Yeah. And curiosity. About the field. That's really cool.
I feel like I can help my clients too, just who are, I do have some that are investors, and just calculating the rents and calculating the costs and understanding like, okay, you're going to need to put $30,000 into it. You're going to get this out of the gate conservatively for rent, and also just being a homeowner. Yeah. It's helpful, You can offer a lot that way too.
That's really cool, because that is kind of a niche, right? That you have that way of calculating rent and saying, this is what the first year may look like. This is what the second year may look like. That's really helpful for someone who's looking for that type of property. That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, how'd you get into it? What'd you do before?
Oh my gosh, what did I do before? Everything. No, I'm just kidding.
What did you do? I've never asked you this question.
Yeah. So basically, I worked some office jobs. My backstory is I went to UCLA with the intention of becoming the next Madeleine Albright. Like, that was my goal.
Who's Madeleine Albright?
Yeah, Secretary of State.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, but things change. Thank God. Politics is not where I would want to be right now. That is for sure.
I don't blame you.
Thank God, things change. So I got married very young. I was like 21 and met my husband. And so like I was kind of just working. I had always done like human resource type jobs. And my husband's a contractor. And so I actually went to try to get my real estate license like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like when my kids were small. Yeah. I have 4 children, and it just never worked out. It was like too much. Like to think about leaving the house and like, for open houses on Sunday, I wasn't holding by that. So my husband and I were flipping houses with other realtors for a while. So but I was finding the properties. I was going in, to the MLS, and looking for things and finding these properties. And it got to a point we're like, why are we paying other people to do this for us?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense. So basically my daughter, I think she was like 5 or 4. And I was like, okay, she's big enough. I'm going to do this. And I just like signed up. I went and I actually did an in-person class. Went to the class. I took the test, like passed it, and like jumped right in.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's how I got into it. And flipping houses isn't happening so much right now because it's become such a crazy competitive market. But I'm really I really enjoy working with people and helping them with their biggest asset, most probably. And it's, I don't know. I'm glad that my trajectory changed from politics to real estate. It was like a blessing.
Yeah, that's a tough field, politics. I'd much prefer real estate, I think.
And you do have to stay out of politics when you're in real estate.
Yes.
Like you really can't go there. Like you got to just you never know what your client's going to feel at that moment. So you just have to
be a blank slate.
Leave that. Yeah. Leave that aside a little bit.
Well, I don't have any experience of you personally as a realtor, but Kendra was amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, amazing. Like, excellent listener, really hard worker. She was processed what we were asking for and was able to understand it and fulfill that. And then sometimes go, I know this isn't exactly what you're looking for, but look at this also. And just hearing, I know this is not exactly what you're looking for, feels very different than people throwing properties at you and you saying, this is not what I was looking for. Right. Just that one qualification made me anxious to look at something that perhaps from other realtors was not presented that way. So I think as a recent buyer, feeling understood by the person that's representing you or helping you is so important. What do you do to try and understand who you're working with?
I mean, it's funny, like, listening to your last episode on therapy.
Yeah.
Like, I do feel like you are a therapist sometimes.
Absolutely.
And it's so important to take the time to sit with your clients. Like, one of the things to talk about in real estate is when you meet somebody, are they going to take the time to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you? And that is really telling. And if you can get in front of them and really talk, because there's so much can happen through text or through email, but you really need to sit down with somebody and look them in the eye and really hear them. And, if they want a mid-century, here, you shouldn't be showing them something, in Hancock Park, that's modern, even if it's in their budget,
Yeah.
But I do think that you do have to guide people and you have to, like you did, like, I know it's not what you were thinking exactly, but based on what you're seeing, that the exact beautiful house with a finished back house doesn't exist in the exact location you're looking for. But just outside there is one.
Right.
Yeah.
And you may not be looking there.
Right.
So I think listening is the beginning of everything.
Yeah, definitely listening and just understanding, everything that you want, like hearing it exactly. Like what was your list? Your what did you call it? It was like your checklist. I forgot.
I don't remember
the name that you said. It was like your wish
must-haves.
list. Your wish list for a property.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, this checks all the boxes. Like that's what I remember you saying that. Like,
yes,
this checks almost all the boxes. Like, we're getting the,
Yes.
So I think it's important to know what that list says and like, also instill in your buyers like realistic expectations. Like she was saying, you might not find the house with the giant lot and the guest house. So maybe you have to build the guest house.
Right.
Or maybe you have to get a little bit of a smaller lot. Or maybe, like there's just different, all different scenarios, and the buyers just have to be open-minded about that.
Right.
And also I really believe that like everything works out the way that it's supposed to be. And you can try to force something and it may not happen.
Right.
But if you have a little faith, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a religious faith. It could just be a little bit of faith. Like everyone ends up in their right place. I feel.
I believe that too.
Yeah. So.
And I know for Bert and I, when we started this process, we actually did sit down and make a list. He's going to adjust your mic really quick. I don't want him to scare you. We did sit down and go, here's what we must have. Isla had a third grade teacher that had lists. This is your must do and your may do. So you must do these things. And if you want, you may do these things, right? Some of them were fun and some of them were extra credit and some of them were hard, but you didn't have to do them, right? So we made a must have and a may have list and really talked about it before. And we started with a realtor before Kendra. And he was a very nice person, and his assistant, or may not be an assistant, that may be the wrong term, but the person that worked with him that was under him they were so nice. They couldn't have been lovelier, but I do not feel they understood us. And I kept bringing MLS listings to them by looking on Redfin. I'd get up in the morning at 6 a.m. and start flipping through Redfin. And by 7:30, I would have sent them 3 or 4 things. So I felt like I was sending them properties. And then we had said, we want one of 2 things. We want a small home within walking distance from this home we're living in now that we can turn into an office space. Or we want a large piece of property with one big house, one small house on the property so we can make both in one place. One of the 2. And at a certain point, they ditched the lower number. They ditched it.
Uh-huh.
I felt they ditched it because they stopped sending me anything within walking distance. And when a house 2 doors down from my house became their listing and they never offered it to me, we said, I think they don't get it. I think they don't get us. And
that's surprising.
So I called and said, we're going to take a break. I just said, we're going to take a break. I guess it's good for someone to say, hey, why didn't you tell us about this 2 doors down? It's 2 doors down. It was exactly what we told you we were looking for. One of the 2 options. And I think they just, I'm not even implying that it was monetarily their focus. I don't know why they just focused on the larger property, but they did not send us any kind of fixer-upper around the corner, tiny. I mean, like 1,500 square foot house. That was never really sent to us much.
Right.
So at that point, I was like, I don't know. We're going to take a break. And then we started working with someone else, and he didn't understand us either. He was just, sending us stuff that we were like, this is, there's some major flaws in what you're sending us. So we're just going to push pause. Right. And then I kept looking on Redfin without any realtor help and went to an open house, and she was the seller's agent and was so helpful. And then did we put an offer on that house? We did.
I think
we did.
I think so. I think it was just, no, it was too crazy because you're going to Alabama. And it was like I think it just became too much pressure.
No, we did write an offer.
Did we write one?
Yes, and they rejected it. Yes, we did.
I can't remember.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
But we were like, she is a shark for these people.
That's what it was. It was like, I think you were still like not really, I told you like, this is what it needs to be. And I don't think that you were really ready for that.
We weren't. And there was an easement problem in the back.
Correct.
Remember?
And that was an issue for you.
There was an easement problem. And we were like, I don't want that. We'd be losing like 20 feet
with what you wanted to do.
With
the people that ended up buying it, like they're just gonna, they didn't care because they're not doing that. They're not building another property. Am I too far away from them?
What?
Oh, it's like basically a part of a property where it may not belong to you. It may belong to the city.
Neighbor.
It did.
In the case of that particular property, it did belong to the city.
It did belong to the city.
Right now, I have buyers on another property in Glendale, where the property line, like the whole entire tract of homes is off, like by like a few feet. So, so basically, the front of they're a little bit on a hillside, and so the back part of their property is really their neighbors, like a little sliver on the side, and then the front part of the neighbor's property is really theirs.
How crazy.
And so right now what we're doing to address this issue is we're having a document drawn up and like signed by an attorney, and also the title company is going to include that hopefully in the title insurance in case there's ever an issue. But like the neighbors all agree that they're cool. You know?
It should be a rectangle pretty much.
Yeah, but somehow like this builder, I don't know, maybe he was drunk that day. I don't know. Something. But it was in the
Things
60s.
are so different back.
Like okay,
when you pull those records.
Oh, forget it. It's not a problem. Like you'll just deal with it, But people are so litigious nowadays. Like you have to be super careful.
Yeah, you do.
So
I agree. I think we were afraid of that property because of that easement.
Well, you guys were going to build a big house in the back, like a guest house.
We were going to be a big
studio, and you would have to. And if the other property got sold next door, and that's the only issue with the new people now is if the property to the left of it gets sold eventually, and some developer buys it, then they could take the back part of their property,
right?
Which hopefully won't happen.
Yeah, I would be so angry.
Yeah. So, but right now they're just gonna make it into their yard, and hopefully it's gonna be
and
fine.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Well, Kendra was such a shark as we were like, she is working her butt off to get this property sold and to get it to the right people, and I like her, so we're gonna just see what she comes up with. And I've never seen anybody work so hard. Even the realtor that sold us this house we're currently in, couldn't touch you, Kendra. You were impressive. And
cool.
I mean,
we ran into him, didn't we?
yes, we did. We ran into the realtor that sold me this house
at the hike property.
At the hike property. That's right. This property way up on a hill that had a huge hill behind it that has not developed. Oh. We were Bert really wanted to build something there, and I was like, "This is a nightmare." Yeah. So kept looking, hill. But yeah, I ran into him. I ran into him again at the movie theater.
Oh, that's funny.
And he's so nice to me. He was. Yeah, he's an interesting fella. But yeah, to me, because you were working so hard, I didn't lose faith. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I was starting to lose faith with the other guy that I was sending stuff to, that was not sending me the smaller properties, that I just didn't. We were almost ready to give up. Wow. Well, I guess it's just not going to happen because we'd been looking for like 8 or 9 months with him.
Right. Wow. And I know that you had a deadline also. And it just like, it's so amazing how it worked out with your house all this time. Like,
yes.
Literally, she's like, okay, once it gets to October, Bert's leaving on his tour. And
no, it was September.
And we're going to have to pause the house hunt. And it really like just kind of worked out like perfectly.
It did. It was mid-September and Bert was
had started his
already
tour.
On the road.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this house came up on the market. You told me about it on Thursday night.
When I was at his show in San Francisco.
We were both in San Francisco. I was in San Francisco at a show. She came up to the show with a friend. And that night she said, there's a house you need to see tomorrow. Coincidentally, Bert had a show in LA the next day. So we went to the open house, and both of us went, this is the house. This is it.
Like he walked up the driveway.
Walked up the driveway. Yeah, no, we parked the car.
Oh, we
parked the car in front, and he went, this is the house. Didn't even go in the house. It was the property. So
I think what's also important about this story is you guys, clearly you'd been looking for a while, but you guys, something that's really important with buyers that you have to get across right away, and then you can really gauge how serious they are, is they need to get pre-approved.
Right.
They need to go speak to a lender. You have to know what they're dealing with, because in their mind, they might think, I'm 1.5 million. And in reality, they're actually like more like 1.1.
Right.
You know, and they may not even realize that.
Right.
Or they may not be able to get the rate that they want, or they think, oh, that bill that I didn't pay when I was 25 years old is actually affecting my credit, and it's actually affecting my rate. So like, you just never know. And so like, it's really, really important. Like, you guys were ready. You were ready to go. You just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And, you know, because it's not just even about that, getting the pre-approval. And as an agent, you know, Kendra has to assemble your package.
Right.
So you have to make sure that your terms are strong, and you're coming in with the right contingencies. If it's a multiple offer situation, you want to be the most, desirable.
Yeah.
What is a contingency for people listening? I know what it is, but what is a contingency?
Well, there are 3 main ones.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There's the inspections, which are, you call a general inspector and they tell you the condition of the house. And also people like to check the sewer line and the chimney, if there's a chimney, and termites. That's like the main 3. Yeah. And then there's the appraisal contingency, that the house should appraise for the amount of money that you're paying. And if that actually doesn't work out, then either the seller has to drop the price of the house, or if they won't do that, then the buyer has to bring the cash to close.
Right.
So, like if there's a $100,000 discrepancy and the seller doesn't want to give a discount, and the buyer really wants the house, then hopefully they have $100,000 in the bank that they can bring to close the house. Yeah.
So if a house costs $100,000 and the bank says it costs $90,000 or appraises for $90,000, then you have to come up with the $10,000 difference.
Unless the seller, unless you say we're not going to do it, and the seller is like super desperate to sell, and they'll say, okay, fine, we'll drop it down to 90.
Got it.
But usually, like in LA, I don't think that would happen right now.
But the bank will only give you a loan for 90.
That's
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's how you're going to make the deal close. And then there's, of course, the loan contingency, getting approved for your loan.
So if you're pre-approved, that contingency is handled.
No.
You still have a long way to go.
Okay, good. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Once you have your loan, your pre-approval, and you're setting, you submit your offer with these 3 contingency periods, and they all have dates assigned to them. And with your loan pre-approval, or that's the beginning for you. So once let's say you get an accepted offer, the sellers, you're good to go. You tell your lender, then immediately they send all of your information to the underwriter, and the underwriter starts going through it, and they start going through it. And then you'll find that you get asked for more.
They want to know everything.
When was that? You do have a record of the rent you paid, 8 years ago. That happened to my client, like last minute. Oh, the underwriter needs this.
Yeah.
Because after the crash in 2008, like people got nuts and they were like, okay, we can't just give out loans to everybody.
My gosh, my first house we bought on stated income. Yeah, we can afford it.
That's it.
Here's a letter. We're self-employed.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a loan. Buy a house. There you go.
Yep.
That was it.
Not anymore.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Now you have to give them your firstborn practically.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Because there's nobody out in the process, like underwriter or whoever, who's going to be the one to okay that lender and then they crap out.
Right.
Like that's it. They're done. Their job's done. Like,
right.
So they're not going to be the one, but in terms of those contingency periods, there's also the escrow period. That's the overarching period of time. And typically it's 30 days. Sometimes it can be less if you're paying all cash. But you want to, if it's competitive, if you've got multiple offers on this house, you want to keep those contingency periods really tight.
Right.
Like 7-day inspection or whatever.
If it's an old lady and she needs extra time to move out,
That's true.
then it's best to be flexible.
That's true.
What do you want? That's what I like to do is talk to the agent and kind of get an idea of what is going to be the best for the seller, because we want to make this process seamless. We don't want them to feel anything except for cha-ching, there's money in the bank when escrow closes. Yeah. So, it's I think it's super important to find out what did they need, because maybe they need an extra month rent back. Right. And maybe they want that for free.
That's right.
Because it's a multiple offer situation. So so that's a gift that the buyer gives the seller, is here's because it's called PITI. So it's whatever your exact payment's going to be, your insurance, your interest, and your mortgage payment. Yeah. So whatever that number is, let's just say it's $10,000 because you bought a really fancy house. So that the owner, if they wanted to stay an extra 30 days, would have to pay that to you.
Right.
But if you want to incentivize it, you say, you know what, you can stay.
I'll pay that first
and I'll
month.
pay it. Yeah.
Right.
And the PIT is principal, interest, taxes and insurance. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's what your nut is every month for you.
We did that when we bought our house.
You gave that to the previous owner?
We did.
Yeah.
We did, right?
You let her stay. Yeah. She had to pack her stuff up, and she needed the time. She ended up leaving early, I think, right?
A few days early. Yeah. She was older, and she was clearly very emotionally attached to the house. And I just couldn't be need you out of here. We've closed. Bye-bye. There was no way it was happening anyway.
People do that. It's amazing. They will do that.
This just happened with my dad. His girlfriend, who's really like his wife, they've been together forever, just sold her lake property. And he has bought and sold many properties, but had never been asked to move out on closing day. And he was like, if it hasn't closed, how do I know I need to move? Right. Why would I move all my stuff out? I mean, give me 48 hours or something after closing. They wanted it empty day of the closing. Oh. And he was like, I've never heard of that in my life.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. It's in our contract, by 6 p.m. the day of closing. But at that point, because usually the money funds the day before.
Right.
So the money's there. So okay, and you're preparing, and you know that the lender gave the clear to close, so the money's going to fund, unless God forbid, I've only heard of one story where somebody backed out at the last second because somebody died in their family.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And they lost their 3% deposit.
Wow.
But other than that, other than a catastrophe happening, it's going to close. Everything's going to happen,
Right.
So unless you're expecting something, I mean, I guess nobody is at that point, but
Once you get beyond your inspection and your loan and your appraisal are kind of happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. Once you get beyond that, usually you've signed off. Okay, I'm signing off on all the contingencies. Once those 3 contingencies are signed off on, you're pretty good to go. I mean, unless something nuts is happening.
Yeah,
right.
You usually I always feel such a relief once we've passed inspections. Then okay, the house is not going to fall down.
Yes.
Or if the buyers care. Some buyers don't care. They're like, okay, if the house falls down, whatever.
We're gonna redo it anyway, right? We're gonna tear it up anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
So I always feel relief. But actually, this transaction that I'm in right now in Glendale, the seller has a contingency with this whole easement thing that they're supposed to, prior to the close of escrow, give a document to the buyers stating the issue with the easement and that both neighbors have signed and that the buyers approve. So they have to remove that contingency. So we actually have not removed all of our contingencies. We've removed the 3 major ones, but there's like the reports and like the title and whatever. I haven't taken those off. So like they still have like, nothing's gonna happen. There's still an out if they need it, if the buyers need it. And the seller, like in theory, if I decided today, like, okay, you know what, I've had enough waiting, I can tell the seller, like, you need to get this within 3 days or we're canceling.
Yeah. Right.
My buyers they're not interested in that, but I'm just saying, like, it does go both ways with contingencies.
Right.
There's something called like a notice to perform, and if they haven't signed off on a contingency period by a certain day, either the buyer or the seller, oftentimes it's the seller. If the buyer isn't signing off on, like, they'll say, you have a notice to perform. You have 3 days. You've got 3 days. Usually, you gotta cut bait.
Get on the stick, buddy.
So crazy. Right. It's so nice that they have that. When my husband and I first started to look for homes a long time ago. Not that old, but
You're not that old. You've just been married forever.
It's amazing how the laws have changed. It really is amazing because we did not have those contingencies, and we actually were in escrow on a property in the Pico Robertson neighborhood. And the seller, it was right before the market crashed the year before.
Oh, wow.
The seller decided he could get more money, and we had I'm Jewish, and we had like a Jewish holiday, and we couldn't like sign papers one day, and he was also, so I don't know what his problem was, but he realized he could get more money, and he decided that we did not, there were no notices to perform back then.
Wow.
There was no 3-day like get it together or get out, and he decided like, oh, you did not adhere to the terms of our contract, so I'm canceling on you, and I'm keeping your 3%.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy.
How is that legal?
Well, it was back then, and that's why we have all these things. Like every single, like more than once a year, the California Association of Realtors comes out with new forms that are updated by their legal departments. And I think like we were like 20, like really young 20s, and like that 3% was so big to us, we had to get an attorney.
Wow.
We lost $5,000 in attorney's fees.
Wow.
But we thank God we won, and we got our money back.
Yeah, sounds like you should.
Most of it, I guess, less the whatever the attorney.
Minus 5,000.
Exactly.
The 3%, like, just so it's clear for people, like when you buy a place, when you put in an offer and you get an accepted offer, you within 3 days of that offer being signed, and it includes weekends, you have to put in what's called your 3% earnest money deposit, and that's 3% of the purchase price. And so it sits in escrow, and it sits there through the whole process. You can get it back if at any point you terminate during those 3 contingency periods.
Right.
So that's just a way to kind of lock you in. Okay, we're all in agreement. You're going to do it.
It's good faith money.
Yes.
Yes, it's good faith money. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Buyers are very much protected. I think it's very difficult these days to get, to not be able to get out of a property that you don't want to buy, because there's so many protections for buyers.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, it is good, especially right now, like with the being a seller's market.
Right.
It's important, and for first time buyers also, like that don't know anything and that are nervous and scared, like that they know that you have a way out if you need it.
Right.
Like, don't worry. It's like, it's paper until it's not, until the loan approval happens and the money funds and you close. So
one thing that you mentioned earlier, just about like with Kendra and what she said about calling the agent when you were submitting an offer, those relationships are so important. Like, if you're working with somebody and they're not speaking to the selling agents, and you don't necessarily have to know all the agents, but if you don't call, and really talk to them and understand, okay, what does your client want? Are they looking for a tight close? Are they looking to have a lease back? How do I frame this offer to make it work for you guys? Like, that goes a long way when you're then have to get into escrow, when you do get into escrow with them, and they're like, okay, I'm working with somebody, because at the end of the day, both agents do have to work together.
Right.
It's not us versus them. You really are trying to make this happen together.
Right.
And I just want to add something while we're on the topic, because this is like I think this is really important coming from like the perspective of realtors. You hear all these ads on the radio about work with Rex Homes or come to Redfin or whatever. Like, you don't need a real estate agent anymore. But like, relationships are so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It matters.
Yeah.
If you know
Really
that
does.
realtor, like I'm saying, like we knew that guy.
Yeah.
So that made a difference.
It was the reason we got the house.
Huge difference.
It does.
You know, like that we were able to connect and say, look, you know us. You know, we don't mess around. We don't play games.
We're going to close.
And so like a lot of times buyers will just go with whatever agent sends them the property or they'll just call the listing agent and they because they think like, oh, if I go straight to the listing agent, I'm going to for sure get the house.
Right.
But right now, like we're in a situation, I think in my office meeting, when was it? Last week. Yeah, last week, because we didn't have this. We have every other week. He was saying like every single property that he's been listing lately has had 20 offers, like 10 offers, 15, like crazy numbers of offers because the inventory right now is so low.
And the rates are
It is so
good.
low. Just to put it into perspective, during the financial collapse in 2008, right?
I think that's right, yeah.
There was, I think he said from Toluca Lake to Tarzana or Woodland Hills, there was 14,000 properties available. Okay. Right now, if you do the same search, it's like in the low 1,000 or under.
Yeah.
You know?
So for perspective, that's about probably 15, 20 miles in distance, right?
Yes.
One
that's
to
if
the
you're going to
other?
Woodland Hills. It might just be to Tarzana.
Yeah.
Okay, to Tarzana is probably 15 miles
it's
in
nuts.
distance. And how many miles in depth? Maybe
Right. So
3?
when I did the search, because I did a little Instagram post, I did a search. I think I did Toluca Lake to Tarzana, and then I did just I think south of Ventura, just a little bit up to Burbank, and it was like 727 houses.
So that's
it's
like
single family, by the way. I'm not including
Not
condos.
multifamily.
Yeah.
that's probably like what 3 maybe 4 miles by 15 miles.
Yeah, it's
that's not a very big section. So there were
not.
14,000. Is that what you said?
During the financial
During the crisis.
when all the foreclosures were happening. Yeah.
And now there's how many?
In 1,000, like 1,200.
That's crazy.
I don't quote me on those numbers. 'Cause
No,
I
but
I didn't look.
But
today,
the drastic
Yeah.
difference is what you're trying to
It's
illustrate.
crazy.
is
Yeah.
that it was
So my point
drastically
is
different.
that like to have an agent that you're working with exclusively, if you're a buyer, it's super important.
yeah.
Don't think. Yes, there are those agents that are like, oh, double ended, sure.
Yeah.
Come on
Happens all the
over.
time.
You know,
Yeah.
there are those agents, but then there's the really honest ones that like don't want to do that because our fiduciary responsibility is to whoever we're representing, right? So if we're representing the seller, our fiduciary responsibility is to them.
Right.
And if we're representing the buyer, obviously same thing. So the point is that like there's a very gray area when you try to represent both sides, especially if you don't have anyone else taking over for you, right?
Right.
So like there are certain people that have teams, so maybe for them like it's a little bit easier, but
Right.
at the same time they're still getting double side, you know, like it's still kind of a
Double dipping.
double dipping, exactly. But the point is that yes, you can go and work with 5 agents, but at the end of the day, I feel like the most successful buyers are the ones that like find somebody that they like and that they work well with and that they know will fight for them.
Okay. How do you know the agent is working well for you? And how do you know when they're not? So how do you know when they are?
I mean, for me, I think again, it's that initial meeting. You sit down, you explain the process, find out what they know, what they don't know, and then get down to the business of what they're looking for.
Right.
And then the way I look at it is everybody's always looking online. You know, I've had a number of clients who they're like, we're looking for this tiny little pocket in Windsor Village near Larchmont. And we want this size house, and that's our focus. Okay, great. That's where we're going to look. And then they send me a listing in Silver Lake. I'm like, okay, wait. And then that's the one they go with. So my feeling is it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to hear you and listen to your directive, but we're in this together. So if you find something that you like, great. And I feel like if you are looking for an agent, I kind of like the analogy of everybody likes a different kind of cake. You know, you may like chocolate cake, you may like lemon, you know, you really have to vibe with the person, you know, because you're going to be talking to them so much and kind of at times getting a little, not intimate, but certainly deep you may learn a little bit about their finances or, their needs for an ill family member or, something traumatic happened and they can't look that week.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that,
right.
And I think the other thing is at the end of the day, it's no matter how badly I may want to get into an escrow or a deal, it's not my choice.
Yeah.
I can't rush somebody. I can't, I've worked with buyers for a year, and you just don't find anything for a while. And you have to work with somebody who understands that process and doesn't have an ego about it.
Right.
And understands you just have to be patient.
Right.
And, and you'll find it, but also, like Kendra, like really bringing it for you. Like, that's how I feel like I really scope out, like, if somebody's looking in a particular area, I'm gonna go write letters to those folks in the area.
Yeah.
If there's nothing there, I'm gonna like go and talk to all the agents that I know. Do you have anything coming on?
Yeah.
I have got a buyer. And a lot of times that's how you can, like, again, back to relationships.
Yeah.
You can hear about something, like, I know something coming on. Let's see if we can get in there early, and see if you like it.
Yeah.
So is that agent doing that for you?
Right.
And going that extra mile for you?
Yes, Kendra, and she has is Jennifer your partner?
We work together on multiple things. Yes.
So Jennifer
actually sold me my house.
She
just
did?
A funny story. Yeah. I just a side note because we digress a little. Right?
We can, no problem.
I remember standing because we bought our house at like the worst time, like the height of the last market, which is still like, I guess it was a deal if you wanted to buy it today.
Yeah.
And I remember standing in my backyard. My house was disgusting. It was like a disaster dump house. But that's okay because my husband's a contractor. And
it's not a dump house now.
No, it's totally not because we totally remodeled it and did an addition and like did all kinds of, like, the house is 3 times the size it was when we bought it. It was a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1,000 square foot house.
Wow.
With original everything. Anyway, I remember standing in the backyard with Jennifer and she was like, I don't know. The market's been going up like $100,000 a year for the last few years. Just like, is it going to keep going? It might. Is it going to go stop? I don't know. But she's like, just if you like the house, you just got to go for it.
Yeah.
And this is coming off of that disaster with
the 3%,
the 3% in the city. And thank God it all worked out. And that was like a crazy. The realtor on our house that we live in was like a no-name, like from a no-name company, like worked by himself, like Jennifer could never get a hold of him. Like she could never reach him on his phone. And thank God the house was so disgusting that most people were turned off the second they walked in. Like you would come in and these people are like frying fish and like, like crazy stuff. Like Jennifer's like, do not put your child down. Do not let him touch anything. This is disgusting.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, Jennifer, she's like, we're very close. She's
like, well, she's lovely.
Yes.
She's so great. So I have to tell the story. I've told this story a million times about when we bought our house. I think it's awesome. It illustrates these 2 ladies because they really tag teamed on the purchase of this house. This house is a very large lot. It was definitely ripe for some kind of developer to come and split it into like 3 properties. It's that big. It's a 38,000 square foot lot.
Wow. God.
So
that's big.
When Bert walked on the property, he was like, this is it. Jennifer and Kendra were like, here's what we're going to do. You're going to offer her like a $5,000 signing bonus. You're going to offer her really short contingencies. You're going to offer her 30% down. You're going to offer her, we're coming to the open house. I'm sitting on this couch for the entire open house. You're going to write her a letter. Jennifer showed up Sunday and sat at the open house the entire day. And have your friends come by. Have your mother-in-law bring your children. Have your children talk to this woman. This woman is the daughter. I mean, we did everything. It was great. I walked through the house complimenting her art, and she left me all this art. But we did everything, and I did everything they said. And I thought, if this doesn't work, there's no way that I'm ever going to get a property in the city. I mean, they did everything but like bribe them monetarily. It was great. Jennifer was so funny. She sat on that couch the whole open house and she kept watching every conversation that was happening with the sellers realtor.
She was gathering intel.
Yes.
She totally was.
That's smart.
It was amazing to watch. Really amazing.
I bet that agent was like,
to watch.
Why are you
No, they
sitting
knew
here?
each other.
No, they-
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, they knew each
okay.
other for years. So
That's
I
good.
could tell that they knew each other. Oh, and Jennifer or you called and said, listen, the seller's realtor is a big comedy fan. Could you get
that
him
was
2
my
tickets
idea.
to Bert's show? So I gave him 2 free
No.
tickets to Bert's show.
Oh, you guys.
I mean,
And he
You
loved
nailed
it.
it.
We were nervous though because
nailed
we were
it.
like, what if he doesn't have what if he doesn't appreciate Bert's humor and he's like offended?
Right.
And I think what Jennifer got out of him was like, oh yeah, I have the sense of humor of like a 14-year-old boy. So
Oh,
great.
we're like, awesome. Here's
That's
2 free
exactly
tickets.
right.
I mean, we did everything. And you know what? We offered her 30 days rent free, so that she could move out. And after it all closed, it worked clearly because we got the house.
Yeah.
And when it was closed, her name was Thelma, or is Thelma. I walked through the house with Thelma, and she was telling me about this sofa and this statue and this here and this there. And in the very end, she said, you weren't the highest bidder. And I said, no, I didn't know that. She said, yes, we got offered an escalating bid for anything over
Whoa.
the highest bidder.
Whoa, that's interesting
And
information.
She
Wow.
said, you know why I gave you this house? I said, no, why? She said, it was your letter.
Oh,
And that
that is
is
huge.
very important.
It is every
People
time.
think, the truth is, like, I had one seller who is like a very close friend of mine. He didn't care about the letters. Like, he really didn't.
No.
Like, at the end of the day, it was like,
the money.
I need to make this much money, and like, fine. It's just that's the way his mind works.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
But there are people that it really makes a huge difference
Yeah,
for. Like,
yeah.
they need to know that they're leaving their house in good hands,
Mhm.
and that, like, these people are real people. They're not going to come in. I mean, there could be people that make up stories because that happens all the
I'm
time.
sure.
Yep.
But I think it's really important to like put a face to the offer.
Yeah.
Put a story behind your offer, because
Well,
at
it
least for me,
worked.
like, I'm a sensitive soul at the end of the day. I'm like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they could see it's something about the swing, like the tree, the grandkids swinging on the tree in the backyard. Like,
Yeah. There's this big
Every
elm
time.
tree in the backyard that has a swing on it. And I said in the letter, first of all, the wallpaper was from 1972. I have had, since we bought the house, I've sold a lot of the stuff they left to prop houses because it's all from 1970. And one of the art directors that is part owner of this prop house came in and he was like, this wallpaper is from 1972, not 73. Not
He
71.
knows the wallpaper.
It's from 72. And I was like, really?
Did you show him the matching couch or the matching
I
curtains?
showed him everything. He was
Oh, I
like, this
love
is the
that.
most amazing time capsule I've ever been in. But I had told her in the letter, I said, I love your wallpaper. I am keeping some of her wallpaper. I could see my kids getting married in this backyard. I could see my grandkids swinging under this tree. We are not tearing this house down. We are going to bring it up to date. I don't think I wrote that in the letter. I just said, we're not tearing this house down. I'm keeping some of this wallpaper.
Right. And even The Office, like where Bert's podcast or your podcast
Yeah.
is going to be, I'm saying, like, that was her husband's office.
Yes.
And
it's not changing.
It's like staying. And I think
Yes.
that's a big deal that people see, like, oh, okay, they're not going to come and raise it and put 3 modern houses on this lot.
No. And she told me that we were outbid with an escalating offer.
Interesting.
And she said, no, it goes to this family.
Wow.
She said, this was your house. This was meant to be your house. And I got very emotional. I was like, thank you so much, Thelma. We've been looking for a year and this is our house. We're so excited. I'm going to take such good care of it. So don't discount that letter. It may not work
No.
for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
But she told me that's why she sold it to us was
Yeah.
the letter.
Wow.
So
Every time, I think. I mean, I've even done it for leases. I've had clients
me too.
do it for leases,
too.
and
Yeah.
and the agent will say later it was actually the letter.
Right.
yeah.
I'm like, you just honestly it doesn't take much to go just that little bit more.
Yeah.
You were talking about like working with your agent and what you should expect to. The other thing I was going to say is if you're also like analytical, like if you really need the numbers and you need the comps for the area, you need to know how much things sold for or whatever, and you communicate that to your agent should be giving you that as
Right.
well. And that's really easy to gather.
Yeah.
And that's another, it's one thing to kind of look at the pretty houses and I need like vaulted ceilings and whatever. But and then sometimes it's you have two different people in the couple. One needs this and one needs this. You need to make sure both are being satisfied too.
Right.
Because like that's hugely important.
I think another
people.
thing that's super important, just a side note, is like being responsive to your clients, like being
that's
available
huge.
for them, because there are a lot of these like, and I'm not saying anything bad about people that are really busy, because I would love to be so busy that I don't know what to do with my phone. But I'm saying like, get back to your people. Don't make them wait. You know, it's not so hard to send a text. Like, just respond.
So if your realtor is not getting back to you in a timely fashion, that's probably a red flag that it may not be a right fit for you. You know, it's just like therapists.
If you're okay with that, then fine. But if
that's
you
right.
feel like you need to know what's happening, and you need to know, like, they're checking in with me, they're you know, they're hearing that I need something,
right?
You know, and they're not getting back to you, like, that's not good,
right?
So
and if they're not giving you the information you're asking for, that's not good,
right?
And I would say, I know for us, I kept feeling like we were making our realtor more and more lost. Before we would that we were not able to communicate so that they could give us what we were looking for. That's one of the reasons I kept showing up with stuff, and I did find a little bit that I felt this may not have been what was happening, but I felt pushed into a higher priced property than I said I wanted to stay at. And you know, you presented us with properties that were more than, but I didn't feel pushed into it.
Right.
It was about how it made me feel.
Seeing what's out there and like knowing, you know what, if this is the right thing, then you could see if you could make it work, and if it's not, then not, you know?
Right. But I felt very pushed, not very pushed. I felt a little pushed by him. And I never felt pushed by you. I felt like, here's this, let me know what you think.
Right.
No big deal. And I can't express enough. He was the nicest guy, and he wasn't a high pressure guy. I don't know what it was about that relationship. It may just have been not a good match.
Right. Everyone has their match, like in
totally.
Marriage and in real estate.
With therapists,
like,
with your OB, with your GYN, with all your stuff. You have people that you just can communicate with easily.
Right.
And I just kept thinking, they don't get it. They're not getting it. And I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
1,000 square foot house within walking distance from this house.
Yeah.
And you know what I don't like hearing? And I don't know if this is not good, but another realtor that we weren't even working with, that was selling something when we were on break between realtors. A friend said, you know, someone in the neighborhood is selling their house. You should go check it out. Here's the seller's realtor's number, set it up with her. We went there and we told her what we were looking for, and she went, oh, that doesn't exist.
Oh man.
But we bought it.
Yeah.
We bought exactly what she said didn't exist.
Right.
Oh,
and I thought, I would never work with you.
Yeah.
I would never work with someone who said that doesn't exist.
Right.
I would rather hear those are rare.
Right.
Yeah.
They come up once a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's see if we can find that.
And that's about how often those do come up, by
Right.
the way. They once a year, maybe twice a year, just depending on on the neighborhood. But
But anybody looking for a house can look on Redfin and see that they do. You know, if I'm looking for a 20,000 square foot property, I can look at the aerial Google map and find 20,000 square foot properties.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me they never go for sale or they don't exist?
Yeah.
They do exist.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that. I hated that. Made me so angry. I don't know why. We left and Bert was like, we are never dealing with that woman. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
I think that what happens too is you know, when you're working with buyers, you can be working with them for a very long time. And there are those occasions where you've been working with a buyer forever, and then they walk into a listing and then they buy the house with that agent.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait. We were just working together. And the thing at the end of the day, like, an agent doesn't get paid until after that deal is completely done. So
Right.
you know, if you are a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, you're getting paid for your time.
Right.
You're not as an agent.
Right.
You get paid at the very, very, very end.
Right.
When you've basically moved in.
So how do you reconcile that in your brain? How do you handle your own, like, after that happened a couple times, I'd be really frustrated. I'd be really angry, and I'd be cautious. How do you reconcile that for yourself?
It's part of the business. There's nothing to do about it. Like, you just kind of have to hope for the best and hope that you impress the clients enough that they want to continue working with you and like they're going to stick with you. I had an incident where I had shown something that was off market, and I basically got these people in when I knew it was available. It's like all learning curves also for me. You know, I'm not in this business for 30 years, so I don't know all the tricks, and I'm learning very quickly. So they ended up, basically they loved the house, but it was being rented out, and then the renters were going to buy it, and then it didn't work out, and then they ended up, these buyers I was working with ended up renting another house, signing a year lease somewhere else. And I told them about another house. They're like, oh, we just signed a lease, we're not interested. So lo and behold, a few months later, 3 months into their lease, the property which I had originally introduced them to showed up for sale. Another agent grabbed them and sold them the house. They broke their lease. I was like so devastated. I was so mad. I was like, this is not okay. You know, and there are certain ways, you know, to legally deal with this. But I, being, you know, not in the business for 100 years, did not have a strong enough paper trail, if you will. But now I know, like, you want to see an off-market house? We are going to sign there's a document that, gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it.
Buyer broker agreement. It's called a BRE.
It's like you're going to bring your buyer into this property with or without another agent, and you can exclude them from any future listings for up to a year. So if I had done that, then I would have been able to get paid when they bought the house. But basically, you know, you tell the seller, like, my buyers are registered now. I'm putting a date for 1 year. If you decide to put your house into the MLS and they come and try to buy it,
they have to.
I'm getting paid.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's smart.
It is.
It is smart. It is smart. And I think it's super important. Like, if any people, you know, newer realtors are listening to this, that they should know, like, make sure you really know every single thing, and like ask questions. Like, that's why you're in an office with a manager. Go to your manager, ask questions. If you're not sure, you know, even older agents, like agents that have been around for a long time, things have changed so much, you know, and they change all the time that, like, I'll even tell Jennifer, like, oh, did you know about this? And she'll be like, no, I didn't know that, you know, because it's been going this way for so long, and now they just changed it, you know?
Right.
So it's really important to stay, you know, apprised of new things that come up.
And to communicate.
And to communicate and to ask questions, and even ask questions of other agents that you work with.
My office has like you have lots of classes, a lot, you know, meetings every week, and like, okay, this is what's new with the residential purchase agreement. Like, that's the thing that, you know, we bought and sold in New York, and in New York you have agents, but they are actually not dealing with all your legal. And this happens in a lot of states. You actually have to hire a lawyer who actually does all your actual paperwork for you. And the agent has the listing and shows you places and kind of gets you into the deal, but then the lawyer totally takes over.
Interesting.
So and they're just like a matchmaker?
Yes.
You know, it's such an interesting situation.
It is so different. And you need a really strong lawyer for that. Here, it's on us, like the legal. And so
that's why we have E&O insurance.
Yes.
And
we have
lots and lots of papers that you guys have to sign.
Lots of disclosures and lots of documentation. And, you know, us as agents, we can't just go out and say, well, now we're an agent and we're representing people. We actually have to hang our license at a brokerage. Right. And the brokerage is Keller Williams, or where do you work, Kendra?
I'm at Berkshire Hathaway.
Berkshire Hathaway, like Sotheby's, you know, wherever. And that brokerage is taking on the risk.
Right.
And so that's why you have like countless, I'm sure all those papers you had a DocuSign.
You never think you're going to finish ever.
I know, right?
And it's, you know, whether, you know, you've got a condo, whether it's a piece of land, you know, you have to make sure that all I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because somebody somewhere along the way sued someone because they weren't told something, and now there's a disclosure for it.
That's why we have all these papers. That's what I always tell my clients. I'm like, you're signing this because someone got sued.
Totally.
You may not care about like where the landfill is because you live in the landfill's like, I don't know, 3 miles away or 5 miles away or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to know that it exists.
That's right.
And you have to know that airplanes fly over your house.
That's right.
Yeah.
And like all these.
Or you're in a flood zone.
Yeah.
Even though it's never flooded ever.
Right.
When did it ever flood?
Or if there's
Los
an
Angeles?
Yeah.
The ground might
move. You might get cracks in your walls.
There's air in the air.
Yes.
Can you sign this, please? Right. Exactly. So crazy.
But that's where, like, where it, not to kind of go down this path, but it is frustrating when you're thinking about discount brokerages. Like, I've called on places.
What is a discount brokerage?
So, like, for example, like, there's this company called Rex
and Redfin.
And they will, a seller wants to sell, and, the typical commission for an agent representing a person selling is like 5 or 6%. And that percentage, typically half goes to the buyer's agent and half stays with the seller. But with these discount brokerages, they say to the seller, so seller, you will, our commission is 3% total. 2.5% will go to the buyer's agent, and 1 will, 1 or so will stay to you, or will kick back money to you after the sale. But really, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you have to do the majority of the work.
Oh.
You've got to, like, show your place. You've got to keep it nice. Like, you'll see sometimes in listings where it'll say contact the owner to see it. And that's, then as the owner, if the onus is on you to, like, keep your place nice and sell it. But I think a lot of us know that if you're the owner, things that you think are fabulous about the place, may not be fabulous to somebody. Right. And if you have a good agent, your agent sort of keeps you at bay. You don't have to deal with all the comments and the commentary, we haven't gotten into the selling aspect of being on the other side of the coin, being a selling agent.
Yeah.
But, like, you're, as that agent, you are prepping the house. You're helping your client prep the house, decluttering. Does it need to be painted? Does it need to be staged? Can you move out? Like, let's talk about open houses. You can't be here during open houses. Like, it's very uncomfortable for us. Like, maybe if you pop in or out, it's really difficult, I think, for a lot of sellers to hear that, because they're like, but I can talk about my house and I love it. It's so beautiful.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, but people are uncomfortable. They want to be able to talk freely.
Right.
So the discount brokerages, put a lot of, I think, the heavy lifting on the client, on the seller or the buyer. And, I'm sure if a Redfin agent were here right now, they probably argue with me and say, like, well, no, we show up, we do what we need to, we do the same things you do, but I have interacted with these agents and I'm not getting the same information.
Right.
I'm not getting the relationship aspect of it. I'm sort of treading lightly here because I know it can get really dicey with agents.
It definitely can. I still don't understand, like, the whole appeal of all of it, even for the agents themselves. Like, what are you working for?
Right.
Like, they don't get commission. They get a paycheck. Like, it's like they're an employee of the company.
Salaried.
Oh, yeah. I see.
Yeah. So
it's just a steady income for them,
I guess,
because your income is not steady.
No,
right?
It's not.
You get paid when you close a deal.
Yeah.
So that would be hard.
Right.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
You have to be very budget minded.
Yeah.
So what is your biggest obstacle with a client, seller or buyer? What's your biggest obstacle? What's the hardest thing? What are you laughing at?
I think for me, like, from a buying perspective, it's buyers who are not all in,
right?
And they haven't gotten they're sort of pondering buying a house. They've been thinking about it for a little while, but they don't actually go and get pre-approved and get and realize, like, okay, couple months ago, we were in a market where we were only seeing, like, one offer. Houses were sitting. Right now, things are going crazy, bonkers. Like, the rates are so great, limited inventory. Things are going in multiples. Like, if you're on the sidelines and not ready to go all in and understand, like, you know what, you're probably going to have to put in a little more, or you're going to have to tighten up your terms, or you're going to have to offer a lease back, like, you have to understand that, and you have to know that that's where we're at. Because I get a lot of, like, that's overpriced, I'll never pay that. I'm like, well, somebody's paying it.
Right.
And that's what it's going for. Right. So that may not be the house for you. That may not be in your budget, but you can't just write it off saying that's ridiculous. That's overpriced.
Yeah.
No.
And in that case, it's important to show them the comps.
Indeed.
Right. Like I have some buyers right now who are interested in it. We have some buyers right now that are interested in a property, and it's the sellers want more. And it's just not worth it. So it's like right now we're being patient. It's like trying to get them to have patience, you know. And then on the flip side, there's the buyers that are like, take their time, and they're, oh, well, can we see it next week? I'm like, it might not be around next week. What are you doing? It's a great price. You need to come tomorrow. This is not a joke.
Yeah, like with our house, Thursday night, you need to be there 10 a.m. Friday morning.
Yeah, because if you wait 1 second, it's over. Yeah. You know, if it's a good deal.
Every market in America is like LA.
No. It's
but
not.
LA is bananas.
It's nuts.
It's worse up north in Northern California.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's way crazier. It's like way more expensive. And actually up there, you buy houses without any contingencies.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
The listing agent, from what I understand, they do all the inspections in the beginning. They say, kind of like Otsego, like we said, here's this is the inspections that the girl did that backed out. But except the seller does them. And you just can't, I don't even think you can have an appraisal or a loan contingency in like Silicon Valley.
Wow.
It's really insane.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's like you buy the house, take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's
There's
on you.
20 other people waiting.
The foundation may be completely cracked, or your roof is going to cave in, but
yeah,
nothing else is here. So is this or bust?
So and I'll say on the listing side, like with sellers, like it's really hard when they have like unrealistic expectations. Like they have in their head, like my house is worth this much money, and I'm not going to sell it for a penny less.
Yep.
But the prices are whatever the market is bearing. So like whatever you're seeing going on, like if you list your house at $1.2 million and you're only getting offers for $1.05 million, then your house is clearly not priced right. Or and it could go the other way. Like if you're lucky, if you price it low enough and you get into multiples. Right. So it's kind of like depending on when you're listing, it's like a sticky, like where should we be with the price? So I think just getting it, like even on that Hill house, like the elevator house, that was the best house. But I'm saying she had an idea that her house was worth so much money.
Yes.
And it really, really, really wasn't. Like there was nothing to support it.
No.
Except for whatever her uncle's uncle just said it was worth.
Right.
So don't listen to other people.
No.
That's the other thing. Like
listen to the comps, right?
Yeah, listen to
and
the
find
comps.
the right comps, because there was the house that I really liked this house right before we found the house we bought, and she wanted like $500,000 more than I thought it was worth, and they pulled these comps from like 2 miles away,
but like better areas,
and better area,
like
better
properties.
School district, better, and you're going, but this isn't a comp.
Yeah,
the comp, it's not a comp.
Yeah,
but they were hanging their hat on that. So to pull the right comp, I think is really important when you're selling your house or when you're buying a house.
Right.
If someone looked at her comps, they probably would have said, oh yeah, I could see that, if they didn't know the neighborhood.
Right.
But I don't even know real estate that well. And I was like, that's like a completely different neighborhood.
That's the job of your realtor, is to say like, this is not the same neighborhood. And we even called out the agent. We're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And Jennifer even called her boss and was like, okay, what, like apples and oranges? Like, where are these numbers coming from? You know, it doesn't make any sense. Because if they would have gotten to a normal price, then maybe it would have worked out. I'm happy it didn't, thank God.
Yeah, me too. We're in the right place.
All I can think about is like, how would you have moved all your stuff there?
I know,
because it only went so far, and then you still had to walk up the stairs.
Well, you know what I've discovered now? It was a house on a hill that had a huge set of stairs to get to the front door and an elevator.
Oh man!
So you could park in the garage
But
and
Isla
get the
got stuck
elevator
in.
and go up. The first day we saw it, Isla got stuck in the elevator. Had to call the fire department, and it's in July. It's no air conditioning in the elevator. And
She was awesome.
Fire department had to pull her out. It was crazy. But now that we've bought the house we have now, our house that we live in now has no stairs. Like 1 step, 2 steps to get to the front porch. But the new house we bought has a second story. And Priscilla can't get up to the second story.
Oh.
Our dog has a bad knee.
Oh, so she would have.
And
my
she
dog
would
also
never,
can't get upstairs anymore.
Right?
It's the saddest thing. You're like, oh, you can't even get up the back stairs of my porch. I have the sling,
Yeah,
like
I have
you
a sling too.
Yeah.
I have a sling, but
Oh
my
my
dog's
gosh.
135
But it's like
pounds.
you're
It's hard
banning-
to put it in the sling.
You're banning
like a
your family
workout.
members from being
Yeah.
a part of it. And I feel so bad for my dog. So I can imagine, like, you guys are like way more like close to your dog than I am to my dog.
Yeah, we're really close.
Oh my
but
gosh.
I thought she could never. She would be elevator only, and heaven help us if
She
we got
gets
stuck in an
stuck.
elevator with
Right.
that dog. That would be terrible.
Right.
So it wasn't. The first thing. You know what? I should have listened to myself when Isla got stuck in the elevator.
Right.
Because when she got stuck, I went, "This is bad energy. It's bad energy." But I really liked that house.
Yeah, it would have been awesome if it was down on the flats.
If it were down on the flats,
Yeah.
yeah. But
The thing that I will say about like working with sellers is the biggest issue. The number one question is, what will my house sell for? What should the purchase price be? And I feel like there are those sellers that no matter how many comps you show them, and you can be so specific and super dialed in, they're still like, no, I want to do it $200,000 or $300,000 more. And I feel like at that point, ideally what you do is you get your average, you really do your homework and you compare and you come in just under.
right,
And that way you're going to get a lot of attention.
Right.
And you're going to get a lot of people who are going to show up and say, wow, this is amazing. This is a deal, blah, blah, blah. But if you start high, sometimes it's just kind of a race to the bottom.
Right.
And then it sits and then it
Right.
gets stale.
right.
And then there's that
Interesting.
moment too where the client starts taking it out on the agent. And I've seen this so many times where an agent will have a listing. The agent's like, okay, if that's where you want to price it, that's where we'll price it.
Mm-hmm.
It's high, it sits. Maybe they come down a little, it sits. Then it just gets canceled, goes off market. The next agent comes in and it's $200,000 less, and they
Right.
sell it like
And they
that.
sell it like
and
that.
it's like,
I told you so.
told you.
Wasn't
And that
priced
poor
right.
first agent put in money to market it,
Yeah.
to photograph it, because
Right.
you're typically paying for that as the agent.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't often stage it, although I have done that. I have also paid for that myself.
That was a question of mine.
Yeah.
How effective is staging? Is it worth the money?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
I
And there
I
are
thought so.
all different
Definitively.
types of stagers. There are cheaper stagers and more expensive stagers. Actually, I don't know about your company, but my company started a whole program that they basically will write it there. I haven't
You
done
pay
it yet.
for it ahead of
They'll
time.
pay for it
Yeah.
ahead of time.
It comes out of
And
escrow
I think
later.
Compass has it also. Like there's a couple
Yeah.
of companies that do offer this service.
Yeah.
That they'll give you, like, I'm just throwing out a number because I'm not 100% sure, like $20,000, right? And to fix the paint and to fix the floors and like bring the house ready to go onto market. But it's written in the contract that money obviously gets paid back.
Right. When it sells. And whose pocket does that come out of?
Typically the seller
It
at
comes-
the end.
yeah, at
The
the
seller.
end.
At,
Yeah.
at escrow. So
But it's
once
worth
it sells, it's worth it.
Yeah,
it
it's
really
worth
is.
Hey, if you put 20 grand in to
Yeah.
make another 100 grand,
Yeah.
Totally worth
it's
it.
completely worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it. I know I've been into houses where I know that it's just been cleaned up, like decluttered, and it's a completely different feeling than when it's been staged.
Right.
And for people who don't know what this means, explain it. You explain it. What does it mean to be staged?
I mean, if you have a house, typically if you move out, or if you can, as the seller, you can move out, move your stuff out. Then you bring in somebody who brings in the new furniture, basically decorates your house.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you have it, hopefully, if it needs it, you have it painted first, then you have it staged, and then, of course, you have it photographed. Staging is really important. Could be a whole other topic of conversation. But
Yeah.
staging is like, dependent upon, we're in a very cool, wood, very heavy wood paneled, rustic, cement floor spot. You need kind of thicker furniture, something that really gives it that vibe. You can't have a pretty little wicker couch here
Right.
when somebody walks in and they're
Right,
going to be
right.
like, what the?
Because maybe the seller has that and just
Maybe
yeah,
this,
like,
and they think it's the perfect
go so
couch,
well.
and you're like, yeah, you know what? That actually, please listen, just please, and that shouldn't be here.
Right.
So, I don't profess to be a designer. I like to look through magazines like or Pinterest, like the
Yeah.
next person, but I really do. No stager is exactly alike, and it's
Right.
good to have folks in your arsenal who, like, I had a little great kind of like breezy condo in what's called Village Green, like kind of on the border of Culver City, and it felt beachy. And the woman came in, and that's how she did it. Like, and we had sort of a short conversation about it, but she got it, and everything she brought in was like super light and airy and beachy. It's like you could have put a surfboard in the corner.
Right. Coastal.
Yes, right.
That's
and
cool.
I really feel what's interesting too for me about staging is you can't overdo it either, because people need to envision their own self in that home.
Right.
And so you have to give the vibe, but you can't go crazy.
Right.
You know, and so you want somebody to walk in and go, oh yeah, that couch, actually my couch would look great right there.
Right.
Or, you know, that vase or that plant or whatever. It's a feeling.
Right.
So that 100% staging.
Well, I think it's like this. A friend of mine took me shopping a long time ago and told me what cut of clothing looks good on me, because I'm 5'4", because I have big boobs, and because I have big arms, right? So I can't wear baby doll t-shirts that have a crew neck. I cannot. I look like a linebacker. And I was like 110 pounds, and I still look like a linebacker. So I think hiring a professional, even though she wasn't a professional, she was definitely someone who had an eye for what looked good on the physical body shape, right? Was one of the most helpful shopping moments of my life, to just go, I can't wear the color gray.
Right.
Sorry, can't wear that color. I can wear these other colors beautifully. So buy anything in that color as long as there's a V-neck or some kind of weird neck and a full sleeve, and I'm cool. But I think the same can be said for a house. Like, if you don't know how to place furniture, what colors work to make the house shine, not the furniture shine,
right,
then that's clearly a talent and a skill.
Yeah.
So I would never stage my house.
And it's really hard for people to have vision.
Yes.
I find.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so if you walk into an empty house, you're like, okay,
Yes.
what do I do with
Oh,
this?
Bert Kreischer?
That's a special person who can see
Bert,
something. And
I
empty.
can see everything.
Right.
And I'll say something to Bert, and he's like, absolutely not. And I'm
Right.
like, just let me do it.
Right.
And then you
Right.
can see it. It's called spatial intelligence.
100%.
And Isla Kreischer has spatial intelligence. That's why she can paint so well, because she sees things spatially. So I can walk into a room and go, that couch is too big for that room. Now, I'm not good at like fabric color coordinating, that kind of stuff. But for space, I went to our property and went, oh, this building will fit here. This building will fit here. This will fit here. Yes, there's plenty of room here. Bert
Right.
can't see any
It's so
of it.
funny because like I'm good with the decorating and like the couches and like the design. Like I'm really good at that stuff. My husband is like, oh yeah, you just move this wall and imagine if it was like this and like this. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I can't understand it. Draw it for me, please, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't see it in the air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bert's the same. If it's
Yeah.
drawn for
Yes.
him, or if he can see a picture,
Yeah.
then he can understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, when we remodeled this house, I made a binder for every room, and I was like,
Oh, that's
tearing it out of
so
magazines.
good.
Went, here's the
Smart.
floor, here's the tile,
Yeah.
here's the paint color. You good?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But if I didn't have that tool, he would have said, brown cabinets in the kitchen? No, because we have dark, like chocolate brown cabinets in our kitchen. He would have said, no way. But when I showed him a picture, this is what I'm trying to do, he was like, okay. Well, I think people fancy themselves able to do these things.
Right.
And it's not the case. I think there are very few people who can walk into a space and make it where someone wants to buy it.
Right.
So why would you try to do that yourself? Just do yourself a favor and pay the money.
Yeah.
Because you'll
Right.
get more money at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like investing money to make money.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
So,
Yep.
okay, let me see what my list of questions for you ladies are. What do you like most about your job?
I like helping people. I am, and like getting shit done. You know, I am like a doer. That's just I'm known in my family as like, oh, you need to get something done? Call Kendra. She'll do it.
Really? The
You know?
person who's made homemade hand sanitizer since Wednesday? Yes. That person? Yes. She does get
That's
stuff done.
awesome. Oh, I need
I
that.
sent the other
They've
picture
run
yesterday.
out.
I was like, look, see, I made my own. It's funny. I went in the gym today and they had like a big bottle of hand sanitizer. I was like, are you sure you want everyone using that? They're like, don't worry, we have more. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
It's so funny. And they're like, and we have 25 things of wipes in the back. And then I proceeded to tell them about Armageddon at Costco yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is crazy. Like, don't think you can find toilet paper
It's
if you
nuts.
need it. You might be using the leaves of your tree.
Sycamore. The natives use sycamore tree leaves.
to
So if
know.
you have a sycamore tree, although they're not, they
You're
have
good.
no leaves right now. So
Right. I was going to say.
just a
Or
stick.
they're really crumbly.
Then you have a
Well,
problem.
when they're green,
Yes, when they're green, they're
they're
good.
like the size of your palm. That is really what they used for toilet paper.
I did not know that.
You didn't?
No,
Now
I
you know.
didn't. Now I know. Anyway, so I just like, my whole thing is like, I like helping people
Yeah.
and just like, I don't know, I guess it's like, let's get into the therapy side of this, like feeling useful, like feeling like I can do something for you, you know, that maybe you can't do for yourself, and like helping you understand, and like just really just holding your hand and being there, like and getting it done. Like there's the goal and we're going to get there.
Right.
And don't worry, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that happens.
Right.
You know, check the boxes. Like I'm good. So I think that's why I love it so much.
It is very obvious that you love your job.
Yeah, I do. I do get stressed out about it.
Well,
You know, like
Postal
kinda have
carriers
to.
get stressed
yeah,
out.
I
Everybody
do.
gets stressed
Like
out.
when you're like in the middle of inspections and like something bad comes up and you're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, because not everybody thinks like in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. Like you can
Right.
fix it. But
Yeah.
some
Right.
people, it really is not. Like it just goes back to like the staging and like not being able to see things.
Yeah.
You know, being married to a builder, like I know, like usually it's really not that bad at
Yeah.
the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess you just have to know if you have the money to fix it. Right.
Right,
You know,
right.
sometimes people don't have that extra cash flow, but I don't know. I think that it's just, and just watching people, you know, grow their families in this place that you help them
Right.
move into. It's
That's
just,
so cool.
it's such a nice feeling.
That's great.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite part?
It's funny. I don't know of another career where I'm bringing everything to bear that I've learned in my life into one position. And from having been in documentary and research and journalist and deep diving on like fact checker, you know, and also, you know, shooting and being interested in photography and design. And then also, you know, I was a producer. So you have to, I really liken this to being a producer. Like you've got a massive list. You've got to, you know, once you're in escrow, you've got a ton of things you got to check off and make sure it happens on time and that no detail is left undone. And I also feel like, you know, at the end of the day, like the feeling that you have when your client says to you, you know, like, I am so stoked. Like, this is exactly right. You know, like, thank you, whatever, you know, like I got this,
Right.
you know, and it's like, and you're off in the world, you
Right.
know, like,
Right.
you know, it feels really good. And I think that it's, you know, you have to find something tangible that you love about it because it is really hard.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a test of patience at times. And, you know, you don't get that offer,
Right.
you know, accepted, and you put in 5 for this client and they're getting frustrated or as representing the seller, it's sitting for a while and you have to find a way to constantly kind of reinvent it. Like, what am I going to do for this open house?
Right.
You know, and so every deal is different.
Right.
And so you have to approach it with an open mind, and like every client is different. Every, you know, everybody has their own expectations and their own set of requirements. And so you have to be able to wrap your head around that person and be
Right.
like, okay, let me just see where you're coming from. And then it helps me. I learn something from every deal. It's
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's constantly evolving, you know, in addition to being able to help somebody.
Right.
You know?
I think it sounds to me like it's constant problem solving.
Yes.
And I don't know that problem solving is a form of creativity, right?
Yeah.
To be able to problem solve, you have to really be creative. So I never thought about problem solving that way. I love problem solving.
Yeah.
I love figuring out systems that work and setting things up that become effortless, and how do you problem solve to get to that? I love that. So I didn't realize problem solving was a real arm of creativity until my therapist told me that. She was like, you realize people who love to problem solve are some of the most creative people. Just because they're logical,
Right.
they're not painting a picture, their logic has to be so creative and they have to think outside the box to
Right.
be able to get from A to B. That's why you love it, because I am a creative person too by nature. And the problem solving piece of it, I would imagine, would be constantly reinvigorating if you're the right person, right? Not everybody likes problem solving. Some people like everything to be easy, and some people don't mind when things are harder because it rubs that little spot in you that makes you problem solve, right?
Right.
So it really is for a special person. I think real estate, has a bad rap. I think most people are distrustful of real estate agents.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true?
I think so.
I've experienced it.
Yeah.
But why? Why do you think people distrust?
Because I think that people feel like we're just in it for the money. Like it's a nice bonus for sure. But at the end of the day, it's not all about that. It's not all about the money. It's about like helping people get what they need.
Right.
Solving the problems, getting through the tricky situations.
Right.
I don't, obviously it's nice to close. Like that's a great thing, but I want to make sure you're happy. I don't know about you, but like my whole thing is like, I want to make sure that they're happy because I don't want to hear, down the road that they're not
3 months later,
or that they're mad at me or that
me.
they felt like, like this or God forbid, like they want to sue me, because they found something else out. Like I want to make sure that I do everything that I'm supposed to do for them. Yeah. And I don't know. I just think that there are real estate agents that are only caring about the money,
right?
And that are doing things in a shady way.
Yeah.
But I pride myself. I think I told this to you the other day. Like, nice guys finish last. Like it's so frustrating. Like you try to do everything by the book and like the right way, and it doesn't always work out for you when you do it that way. But you know what? Like you can go to bed at night knowing that you are an honest, good person, and that you did right by all the people that you interacted with for the day.
Right.
So.
I feel like people also, like if you are, you have a client and they're going to sell their place and you walk through all the things, okay, let's change this, let's do that. Are you open to, we should paint it, we should stage it. And then you bring in your stager, your great photographer, and you market it and it goes quickly and it's very smooth.
Yeah.
There's like a weird perception that, it's so easy.
Right.
Like you didn't really work that hard.
Why are they getting paid so much money
yes.
for doing
Why
nothing?
are you getting that commission? And they don't understand like all of the stuff you're doing in the back because the whole idea is to make it smooth for them.
Effortless.
And so you have to really like that feeling of like making it very smooth. You're calm. We're all good. Don't stress.
Right.
And then, but if it happens quickly, it's almost a weird double-edged sword.
It's almost a
they're
negative.
like, wait a minute.
Right.
You didn't work that hard for that, 2.5% or whatever, But I do find that, when you are clicking, like I said, like, everybody likes their own particular kind of cake. Like if you have your people, they know how hard you're working.
Right.
And, there are always going to be those folks who don't think that you are earning, you don't deserve that commission.
Right.
And, at the end of the day, those are probably not the folks that you're going to be working with forever.
Right.
But know how hard Kendra worked. Like, she had your back the entire time.
Yep.
And she deserved every penny she got.
Every penny.
And so, that's kind of, as an agent, that's kind of who you want to work with.
Yeah.
You want to work with your people.
Right.
So,
well, I think from a layperson's perspective, from working now with 1, 2, 3, you're the fourth agent we've worked with on the purchase of 2 homes. We tried 3 with this last purchase. And I can say this, of all of them, even if any of them had sold me a house, they had knowledge and information I did not have that I needed. So that's worth their pay right there.
Right.
So icing on the cake is someone who understands you, who's you really communicate well with. Of course, we would like for that to be every relationship we have with our doctor, our lawyer, our whatever. But I think realtors bring to the table a wealth of information and experience that I don't have the time or interest in accruing myself. So that's worth your commission, much less feeling like you've gone above and beyond. So I never understand people who begrudge people like realtors, because there are many other industries like a realtor where at the end of the day, people go, you don't really deserve that much money. Lawyers are another one,
right?
Where it's, we couldn't function without lawyers in Bert's business. Right. We need lawyers to deal with so many things because I don't even know things that I'm supposed to be thinking about, right?
Right.
How would I know that about the real estate industry? I wouldn't know that I'm supposed to be thinking about inspections and contingencies and landfills and all this stuff that I don't know about. So
I think though that like as a buyer, you don't feel it as much as like a seller, right? Because the seller's getting all the money taken out of their pocket in theory, right? Like they're paying the commission.
I've never sold a house,
right?
So I don't know.
So that's when you feel it a little bit differently, and I feel like that's kind of probably where the stigma comes from more than from being a buyer's agent.
But why? Why?
Because they want to make sure that they're getting their money's worth, right? Like they're paying 4%, 5%, 6%, depending on like the situation, right? Of their total sales price of their house.
But that's nothing.
But you're a normal person.
Yeah.
You're a rational, normal person. Like you are not
I would say
like
you're
most
an exceptional
people.
person, actually.
Well, thank you, Toss. I am exceptional. But no, like 4%.
Okay,
that's nothing.
That's nothing but that's like if you did both sides of the deal and you're giving a discount. But usually it's 5. It's usually 5%.
It's usually 5.
Like standard and customary is 5%, 2.5 to each side.
Yeah.
So if I sell my house for $100, you get $5. Really? People really have an issue with that?
But when it's $2 million, then like it's
then they get a
lot
little
of money.
They get a little edgy.
I understand, but that's not the point. The point is the larger picture, which is it is a percentage of the overall, right? And if you don't feel like your agent deserves only 5% for listing, for showing, for advising you on to whether or not you should upgrade, update, redecorate, for using their knowledge of comps in the area,
doing all the legal paperwork,
for you're crazy,
right?
Then I think you're foolish because you
should be the spokesperson.
You should.
The thing is
why you should have your
real
estate agent.
Here's why. Though. Here's why. I grew up very blue collar. I grew up with a community, not just my dad, but a community of people who were suspicious of people like realtors.
Yeah.
Very naturally, culturally suspicious. I married a white collar man that grew up white collar, where these things are just, that's just what you do. So transitioning from one thinking into the other has been an interesting process, not just in buying a house, in everything, in paying for college, in buying new cars and buying a television. Bert's theory is you buy an expensive appliance because you'll have it forever and you don't have any trouble with it. I buy the $200 appliance that's done in 2 years because that's what you do, because you only have $200. So you can't buy the expensive one. And why is it so much more expensive than the $200? That's a bunch of crap. It's the same thing. It's not true.
Right.
That's not true. But I think culturally, a lot of people grow up suspicious of things like a realtor's commission, not understanding that you have to spend money to make money.
Right.
I did not grow up understanding that you have to spend money to make money. I grew up understanding that you sit on every nickel you own because you probably only have 2. So don't spend 1 to make 2 dimes because then you're out of nickel. So that awareness of how I used to think is part of what I want to show people on this when I podcast is that there's nothing wrong with thinking that way. And it's very helpful to me. Like now, we could afford to pay a ridiculous cable bill. And I still look at my cable bill and go, why are we paying that $10? I should not be paying that $10. Like there's nothing wrong with that skill set of being someone who's very money-minded and frugal-minded and even suspicious-minded. Why are you doing that? Because I think that's part of what helped me say about the other realtor, he's not actually earning his commission because I'm bringing him everything.
Right.
And he's not bringing me the things I'm asking for.
Right.
So that's the suspicious mind. Instead of Bert was like, well, he's a realtor. He'll get it done, you know?
Right.
There's value in that blue collar thinking, but some of it needs to go. Some of it needs to go away. And you need to say, I need to spend the 5% to make the 95%.
Right.
Because that is really how the world works.
Yeah. I feel like on some level, like when you're saying like you grew up with your family was suspicious of agents, I think that there was a time, you know, pre-internet when, you know, pre-MLS where everyone, you know, had access, you know, via Redfin or whatever. There was that time where agents really did have a lock on what was available.
Right.
And so you really did have to really rely on them.
Right.
And then oftentimes they were just showing you what they had.
Right.
What they were listing. Right. And so, and it really was a relationship, like call your, you know, that agent says, hey, Joe, do you got anything? Okay. You know, and then you as the buyer, you know, didn't know what was out there.
Right.
Oh, okay. We're going to go see these 5 today. Okay. You know, or like it came out once a week in a paper somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so,
yes,
but
true.
You know,
That's
so
how I found my house in LA Times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we sold our own condo, or co-op. It was a 4-unit co-op in New York, and we sold it ourselves. And because again, you need a really good lawyer versus the agent. And I can't tell you how many agents came through who were like, I have a great buyer. You know, would you work with an agent, buyer's agent? I'm like, that your buyer could come directly to us. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it just don't, you really, truly, we're paying for the lawyer. Your client will have to pay for the lawyer, and they're the ones who are going to have to negotiate all this. Like, no, I don't get it. But once I got here, I was like, oh, this is a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the agents really, truly are taking on the risk. The brokerages are taking on the risk.
Right.
But I feel like that suspicion, it was hard. That was even in my own head, becoming an agent was, I had to get over that.
Right.
And there's something like when you first get in the business, they say to newer agents, they like, don't be a secret agent. Tell everyone that you're an agent, because that's, you know, your friends and your family, like they're the, you know, I had friends like a year or 2 in, somebody said, oh yeah, how'd that open house go? And then the person standing next to them, who I've known for a long time, go, oh, you're an agent? I'm like,
don't be a secret agent.
Don't be a secret agent. I'm
Well,
like, why did I not tell her?
Now, especially here, it sounds to me like everything is so regulated that it would be hard to be a shady agent, so to speak.
Oh, you have no idea. It's
Really?
not hard. It's not hard at all.
It's not hard?
No, it's
How come?
because if you're a shady person, you figure it out.
But what do you do that's shady? What could someone do that would be shady?
One thing that
All the things that you're not allowed to do,
Yeah.
like that you learn
what?
in real estate school, like steering, like you're steering your clients only to your listings,
Yes.
or only to this. You know what I mean? Like there are ways to be shady.
Or there's agents
You may not get caught,
Yeah.
but there are totally ways to be shady. In
Okay,
every
tell me some
business.
shady ways. Steering
like-
people to your listings only.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
there are those agents who have a, you know, if they're, you know, they have a listing and they're having an open house and someone comes in and they say, oh, I really like this house. And like, oh, are you working with somebody? Meaning, do you have an agent? Well, yeah, there's somebody. Well, you know, to get this, you actually need to write it with me. And so they want to what they call double end it.
Right.
And so they want to represent the seller and the buyer. And maybe they've worked out something with the seller that if they do double end it, the commission will be
It
lowered.
drops down.
And so it's in the seller's best interest too.
Right.
You know, for them to get both sides.
But is that considered a conflict of interest?
In some sense, yeah. Especially like, you know, I've had buyers tell me after the fact that when they went with the listing agent, they said like 2 months later, you know, they were sort of steered away from not doing a foundation inspection. And then it turns out there was a massive problem with the foundation.
I hope
and
they
they
sued
were
their agent.
Right, exactly. And that was like a double ending agent who their first priority, fiduciary responsibility, was the seller.
Right.
And so it is really difficult if you're the buyer, and I would really highly recommend for people to have their own representation. I mean, those deals that where the agent represents both sides, where it works is if they're both investors, they've been down this road before, they're flippers. I know what inspectors I'm doing.
They don't care.
I don't care.
Like, or they're not inspecting. They're just taking the house. Like at that point, okay, fine.
Let's just do the deal. We're
like
agreeing on a price. Buyer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be a tricky, very, very gray area. But there are like, it's like, okay, so like I'm agent so-and-so and I have a listing. And like, if you buy my listing, then let me sell your house. And then I bring my buyer to like, it could just get crazy, you know? And like, or I'm not taking an offer because I already have an offer, but like my offer is good for now. Or like that offer is based on me selling the other guy's house. Like, it's just like, it could get complicated, you know, and there are ways people play games all the time. You know,
really?
I have to say like, the very first flip that we did, it was a short sale. Like that's where you see a lot of shady stuff going on.
What is a short sale?
A short sale is when you buy a house for, let's say $900,000, and then all of a sudden, and then you like refinance it, right? Like take 100 because the market went up. Take 100,000 out, and now your payment's more, right? And then the market goes down, and you can't afford it anymore. So you call up the bank and you say to the bank, like, okay, if I sell it to someone else for $700,000, are you going to take the loss? Like maybe there's a second mortgage, and they're willing to take the loss.
Got it.
Then they'll say, yes, okay, well, we're going to allow that. Otherwise, it would go into a regular foreclosure.
Right.
So short sales don't happen so often. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Like, so the first flip we bought was a short sale that like not me and my husband, but like someone we were working with had inside information. So he brought us and he did all parts of the deal. Like, was that the most like straight thing? I don't know, but he was from San Diego. Like the house was in North Hollywood. Like what are you doing here? I don't know.
Right.
Okay, whatever. You know, it worked out in the end. We didn't do inspections. We just took the house. It was a whole process. But like every once in a while, I don't know if you notice it, you'll see like in my neighborhood, you'll see a house pop up. Like there's this house on a huge lot. And they had paid $1 million for the house and the market had gone down. And so all of a sudden it was up for short sale, $600,000.
Wow.
And they sold it to their cousin, probably. The same owners then proceeded to tear down the house and build a giant house that they now live in today.
Wow. Same owner.
Yeah,
that's pretty shady.
But I'm saying that they sold it to their cousin who happens to be a real estate. So there's like crazy shady stuff that goes on all the time. It's just like, I'm not interested in getting involved in any of that.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Because it's not worth the risk. And I wouldn't want to do that like for my own conscience.
Yeah.
When we bought our house, we paid $600,000 for it.
Yeah.
And we were in an 10-year interest only loan.
Yeah.
We were paying like $2,400 a month to nothing. Right.
Yeah.
And, but my husband wanted to get into a property. So the market crashed and our house was suddenly worth like $400,000.
Oh my God.
Man.
You know what? We could have done the same shady thing.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people that did.
Yeah.
But we didn't because we're honest, good, hardworking Americans.
Yes.
So we held on.
Yeah.
You know, thank God our house is worth a lot more now.
Yeah, right?
But like we held on. But there's like, even in the late 90s, it was the same thing. People were just like mailing their keys back. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I find that, I don't know, if you really can't afford it, fine. But if you can and you just want to get a better deal, like it's not nice.
No, it's not
really
nice.
Not nice.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier about the continuous coming out of new laws and regulations. One of the things that was new, I don't know exactly when it was new, I think it was in the last few years, was a document that an agent, like a buyer's agent, could submit to a selling agent if that basically says you've shown your client my offer. Because I've seen situations where agents have submitted an offer and then the selling agent representing the seller says, they're not interested in your offer. And then you're like, okay, but you're not in escrow and did you show them my offer?
Right.
And so as in some shady agents won't show their client the offer because they're waiting to, again, double end it, or they're waiting for something else.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so what you can do as the buyer's agent now, because of course somebody got sued, you could submit, I can't remember the name of the form, and it's like one page where it says, you've shown your client, you have to get your client to sign this that says that they've seen my offer.
Right.
And, in some cases I've seen agents have to get the brokers involved. So there's like a broker of record for every brokerage, and they'll have to say like, I don't think that agent from that other brokerage showed their client my offer. So that broker has to call the other broker, and they have to say, did that happen? Did it not happen? You have to get them to sign this. And so that's another example of a shady, like there's various, reasons why an agent wouldn't, show their client an offer.
Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's because they're waiting for their buyer to come through,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've heard
that's where
stories
it gets
like that.
dicey.
Yeah. I've had friends that said that they don't think their offer was ever shown
Yeah.
I didn't send
Right.
it in, but I'm saying like before I had my license, that they don't think that their offer was ever submitted to the listing agent by
Yeah.
their buyer's agent. There are lots of you know what, in this world, unfortunately, everybody can find a way to be dishonest.
Right.
Yes, in every field.
In
right?
every field.
In every single
Yeah.
field.
So
right.
that like our job is to be honest. And
Right.
and I pride myself on that.
Right.
So
Honest and transparent.
exactly.
The only way.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
there's no other. Why would you do it any other way?
I don't
You're going to
know.
get bit. You're
Yeah.
going to get
It will
bit.
catch up to you eventually.
Yeah, it will. It will.
If
Yes.
not in this lifetime, in the next one.
Right.
Sometime it does catch up. I believe that
Yeah.
completely.
Yep.
It will catch up. Let me see what else I have on
All
my
right.
list. I think we've answered.
I'm
almost
impressed by
all
your
of it.
list.
Thank you.
Good questions.
What is your? This is probably a dumb question, but what's your main goal in your career? What's your main goal? Is it to make a bunch of money? Is it to be here for 50 years? Is it to sell 800 houses? Do you have a main goal for your career?
I just want to stay alive in this lovely city of Los Angeles. I'm just trying to keep up with the rat race.
Yeah.
That's me. Pay tuition,
Yeah.
Pay my mortgage. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy here. Like really,
Yeah.
we get 1099. I don't know if anybody's
Yeah.
aware of that also.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
basically-
oh my God.
Yeah. So
You
it's
Paying
can
for your own health
1099?
care. You're paying for your own everything.
So we're
Yeah.
independent contractors, and
Yeah.
thankfully this law that just passed, thank you California, for all the other independent contractors,
The
not
Uber
us.
drivers.
Yeah, the Uber drivers and everyone else. It didn't affect real estate agents because I think our California Association of Realtors and the National Association of Realtors is a very strong lobbyist.
Very strong. Yeah.
But basically, yeah, we're 1099. So okay, great. We get a commission check for $20,000, but that's a lot of taxes. And that, and never mind our expenses.
Right.
So it's not like you're really making that money.
Right.
So
of the 5%, you're probably keeping what, 3?
So
Well, so
let's
two
call
and
it
a half.
2.5.
Yeah,
Because
so two-
usually we're just representing one side.
Okay, so
Yeah. 2.5 and 2.5.
you make. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. The 5% is shared.
Shared, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's 2.5 to the listing
total.
agent and 2.5 to the buyer's agent.
Right.
So that's nothing.
So,
So
I
you're
mean-
working for 2.5% of
It
the sale
is.
price.
It depends on the property. Like
Yeah.
a $2 million property, it's a nice paycheck.
That's right.
No, I know. but
however-
I'm talking about in the scope of the 100%.
For me, I immediately take 30% off and put it
Right.
aside for taxes.
Yeah. You have to.
Got it.
And
Yeah.
it's just it's a lot, and that's not including any resources that we may have put into the deal. Like if you're a listing agent, you paid for the pictures, you
Paid for
paid
the
for
marketing.
the marketing, you paid for all kinds of things. So you take those expenses off also. Transaction, I don't know if you use transaction coordinator,
yep.
but transaction coordinators
Yep.
who helps with the paperwork.
Yep.
So basically there are real estate agents that are making tremendous amounts of
yeah.
money.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They
A lot.
really, because they're
Yeah.
selling so much.
Yeah.
And for me, my goal in my career, I was a little disappointed because I got an award last year, and this year my award is lower because I had a slower year, and I was so mad at myself. I'm like, this is not acceptable. I am not going to do this again. I need to work it. I need to get up. I really need to start pushing myself because I'm very much competitive with myself. So
Yes.
I'm so mad. I didn't even post my award on my social media because I'm this is so upsetting. But for me, again, it's just I have a family. We have 4 children, and we send to private school for religious reasons. So it's not people could say that's a choice. could it be a choice? It could be, but we live a lifestyle that we want our kids in that kind of an environment.
Yep.
So really it's like we're trying to just survive like in LA right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God willing, when I make millions of dollars a year, it won't be an issue. You know, when I'm selling so many houses. But yeah, it's just keeping up with Los Angeles, because it is crazy here.
It is crazy
it's
here.
Nuts.
There's something, you know, I work with Keller Williams. My office is in Larchmont, and there's a constant refrain. It's probably across real estate brokerages, but certainly hear it a lot in Keller Williams. It's like, what's your big why? Mm-hmm. Like, why are you doing this? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's exciting and fun and interesting, and, you know, you learn constantly and you're with people all the time. But yeah, like, you know, I've worked with buyers who after a year and a half don't buy.
Right.
And so I've spent numerous hours like searching and going to open houses and talking with them and even putting in offers and not getting it. And then they decide, you know what, we're scrapping it. We're just going to keep renting.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you know, so you have to be able to put up with that and come back to your big why. And I think, you know, look, first and foremost, like you're saying, like LA is expensive. Like certainly you want to make money. But you can't count on the money like you can like a paycheck. So it's not like I can count on my, you know, my whatever $5,000 a month if I were working somewhere, whatever it is. You know, so I think like for me personally, like I really like real estate, and I'm also a landlord, and I'm an investor. So I got into it kind of thinking like, I want more properties actually. Like I want to buy more and you know, as a legacy to my kids too. And I, you know, money is clearly a thing, but I also think there is something for me, like being in the community, you know, like I really want to be a part of my community. And like, you know, I'm a tennis player. I belong to the Los Angeles Tennis Club, and I'm also a member of what's called the Ebell Theater out there. It's like a crazy
the Ebell Theater.
Yeah, it's like a beautiful 100-year-old theater, gorgeous out there. And I'm involved in a women's organization, you know, that's one of the oldest in the neighborhood. It's called NGA. It used to be the Needlepoint Guild Association, and women used to really make clothes for people.
Amazing.
And so now we actually shop for people, like for Alexandria House and Aviva and all that. So I really love those aspects of it, and that is, and real estate, you know, people are constantly buying and selling, like, oh, you know what, my mother, I think I want to move my mother here. I want to buy a condo. Do you know anything coming on? And do you want to buy some Girl Scout cookies? You know,
right?
like it's just all part of woven into the fabric of it. And so I feel like for me, I actually really like being in the community and also working with people who are, you know, looking for something for themselves or for their kids or their family or whatever. And it is kind of exciting to like pass by a house and you're like, that was my first one. Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I sold that for my friend.
I just saw my first client, my first buyer. I was a listing agent. My very first deal, which never happens, by the way, it was a listing.
That is rare.
Yeah, yes. It does not happen. But again, I'm part of a community, and like, it's like, you know, people, they call it the sphere of influence. So that's how it happened.
Yes.
Happened to be like my sellers wanted to buy a house. And so he's like, okay, list my condo, we'll buy the house. Like, it was a great situation. So I saw the little boy. He bought this condo. He's like a Disney kid. Yeah. Like he's on one of the shows. And I saw him by my gym, and I went over to him. I was like, hey, what's up? Like, it's always like so exciting to see.
It is.
And I totally forgot, because when he bought the place, he was turning 18. So his mother had to put it in her name until like for a few months. And I forgot that. I was like, did you turn 18 yet? Really? It was like 5 years ago or something. He's like, no, I'm like 20 something. I was like, oh my gosh, I totally mixed it up. But it was cute. It's like nice to see your old clients, like people you've worked with.
Yeah. They're your friends.
Yeah. It was really cute.
I know the whole time we were working with Kendra, Bert and I would go see a house with her. We get in the car and I go, I think she's going to be a friend. Yes. Like when this is over, I think we're just going to be friends.
Yeah.
And then that happened multiple times. And Bert was like, you know, she can just be a friend. It's okay. You don't have to keep saying that. You can just keep being friends with her. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm not the best friend. I'm so busy. But I mean, yeah, we still chat.
Yeah.
We just went to lunch. She gave me sourdough starter.
That's right.
You know. She
all
wasn't
the
trying
time.
to get me to buy anything.
Right.
She wasn't trying to get me to sell this house.
I bought Girl Scout cookies.
Bought Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
ran
yeah.
a 5K for Thanksgiving.
Borrowed your vacuum.
Yep. So
yeah, I mean that is, you are part of the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, being an agent, it's sad that there's a stigma.
it is so sad.
It's a bummer because
you know
it's
what?
not to me like that.
This is what I was thinking too that I didn't say earlier. You deserve to make a good living, just like everybody else. Just
Right.
like the person that works at the Hyundai factory down the street deserves to make a good living. So to begrudge someone their 2.5% is really not nice.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's not kind. So maybe the next time you're buying or selling a house and thinking about that commission, think about it a little differently, right? You deserve to make a good living. And I would argue that you make overall for your hourly time not as much as people think.
Right.
Oh, no.
You know,
Yeah.
the paycheck looks really big.
Yeah.
Right.
But for the amount of time and effort
Mm-hmm.
that it takes, not just for you, your client, but for the people who look for a year and a half and decide to stop. You're still putting in hours. Not that the person buying and selling needs to pay for your efforts with other people.
Right.
But as a career, it has to be sustainable or people wouldn't do it as a career.
Right.
So to begrudge someone their paycheck is asking for a business to not be sustainable,
Right.
in my opinion. And this is a service that absolutely has to be there. I have no interest in paying a lawyer's fee
Yeah.
to do what you do, which
And
is
they'll
what
charge you hourly.
hourly,
they'll-
right?
Yeah, they'll
charge you hourly
Yeah.
and
yeah.
ask
But what
for
does the
blood.
realtor get out of it in New York? I'm saying,
I
like,
know.
how do they get paid?
They do get a percentage.
So
it's
weird.
nuts. It's like you
Such a
have to pay
weird
the lawyer separately, and the agent still gets their commission off of the sale.
It costs you even more money to sell a house
It's
in the East
insane.
Coast.
Yeah,
Insane.
it's amazing.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
California, I mean, we have all of our quirks here.
yeah.
But
One or two. I was
or
just
two.
saying, we have this one thing here in California, people who don't live in California. I'm sorry, California, and I'm sorry, all you eco-friendly people. This is the dumbest regulation I've ever heard in my life.
straws, what?
Ever. What'd you say?
I said straws?
Straws, well, the straws, well. So they require that you capture the rain
Oh, you're talking about for
coming
building.
off your building and put it in either these enormous, like 50-gallon barrels at the end of your gutter, which are ugly. Under the best circumstances, they are fugly, right? Or you can install this insane drainage system where all your gutters go to one pipe that goes underground to this rain capture thing that then has this like French drain looking thing underground so it can seep back into the ground instead of running off your property into the street, collecting garbage or contaminants and then going into the ocean. It rains like 9 days a year here. It rains like fucking 9 days a year here. You know what they don't require you to do? Install solar. It is sunny all year.
Yeah.
But we don't have to put solar on, but we have to capture rain. It is the dumbest thing. And we're not even capturing it to like drink it. We're just making sure it's clean on its way to the ocean. Or it just seeps back into the ground so it stays in your property.
Right. So you don't use
essentially.
as much water.
So you don't use
Yeah.
as much water for what? Watering your lawn?
Watering your lawn, yeah. Taking a
From the
shower.
Your
9
grass
days
lawn.
it rains in December, January, February, you don't water your lawn much. Guess what? It's too cold for your lawn anyway. But we could be capturing sunlight all day, every day, and they don't require that.
I know.
I do not understand
Lots of things are backwards.
the reasoning. That doesn't, I would much rather put that money, because it's going to cost a lot of money to do that.
Are you doing this on a new build? Are you doing
No,
renovation?
it's a remodel.
Oh, it's a remodel.
But they're
Yeah. Okay. So
requiring
that's
it.
the
Remodel.
requirements
They're
now.
requiring it on remodel.
Yeah, because if you can get grandfathered in without, you don't need that. But if you're doing a remodel, like,
Oh, yeah, no,
typically,
yeah. If we weren't touching the house,
Right, right.
fine. But we're
Right.
remodeling, so yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
But even for my remodel, I guess for a brand new build, they are requiring that you install solar, which is good,
That's
but not
interesting.
for my remodel. And I'm like, that's so dumb. This is one of the resources
Right,
California
but it's so much.
has.
Solar is expensive.
It is expensive.
So like, I don't know.
I've
I don't know
done
how
it.
If I
much
had
the
to
drain.
choose the two,
Right.
I
Right.
would choose right. If an ecologist said to me, "Let's choose one," I would choose the solar because I would imagine that would generate so much more energy than keeping the 9 days of rainwater.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I have solar panels and
Me
I don't
too.
see like, I don't know about you, but I don't see like a huge
Me neither.
No.
impact on my bill.
That's
No.
what's so surprising.
It's very frustrating because it's not like we get to keep. It goes back into the grid and they give a small discount.
Yeah.
And it's just
So it doesn't sound worth it.
It could be for some people. It
Yeah.
just maybe with my size house and where I'm located, where I'm facing, them not having enough solar panels could be, but I don't feel like that it's paying for itself or that I'm making so much money. Like it'd be really cool if you could be off the grid. Like that would be cool. But yeah, right. Never going to happen.
I think it works for my neighbor because she's one person living in the house. And so she doesn't use a lot of energy.
Right.
And she actually is able to sell it back. And her electricity is like
zero.
nothing. Yeah. But us, 4 people in the family, we've got a back house, a front house, running lots of computers and machinery and whatever. So yeah, it's a bit of a wash.
Samesies, except we're 6 people and
Yeah,
Right.
same here with 4 people.
people that don't know how to turn off the lights when they walk out of a room.
Me, same. Bert, when Bert's here, everything's on.
Right. It's like
all the time.
blasting.
Yes, air conditioner's on 68, and I'm like, dude, it's February. I want the heater on. Can we just not do that right now? Anything you think anybody should know that we haven't discussed? Did I miss anything? Did you miss anything?
Well, I will say something.
Please.
It is a really good time to buy right now. So if
Okay.
anybody's on the fence, the interest rates are at historically low rates right now. And a lot of people are like, well, what if there's a correction in the market? Even if you can afford the payment as it is now with the price of the house as it is now,
Yeah.
even if there's a 20% correction, interest rates go up, the payments are going to be really very much the same. So it's really, if you're on the fence, like, pull the trigger, if you can get a good agent, call us.
Yeah, right.
We'll help you. We'll help you get the offer accepted. But yeah, it's a good time to buy. Even though it's a competitive market, if you can get into it,
Now's a good time.
good. Yeah.
That's good to know.
I totally agree with that. I think if you're a buyer, and you're really serious, sit down with your agent, interview some agents, talk to a few different people.
Right.
And, ask them how they work. Tell them how you want to work. How do you want to receive information? Is text better? Is email better? How do you like numbers? Do you, you just like pretty pictures?
Right.
And understand that, like, for me, however the listing comes into our laps is how it comes into our laps.
Right.
And the work begins once you make the offer. And make sure you understand the offer process and that your agent is helping you and really explaining it to you. And from a selling side, again, interview a lot of people. Don't just go with the person who's been sending you a postcard for the last 2 years.
Right.
Like, talk to a number of different people. What's important to you with an agent? Like, how do you, do they get back to you right away? Like we talked about earlier, like that's so important. And how do you need to be communicated with? And be reasonable about the price. Really look at it. Do your own research.
Yeah.
Like, don't just say like, well, that kitchen I put in 1992 is amazing and it's worth $500,000. Like, be realistic, and I think as agents, we have to really understand that is your biggest asset. And we understand this is really important. And I would argue that, look, it's a nutty business. And so you have to be able to kind of flow with it a little bit. And it might be frustrating if you don't get an offer accepted, but understand that like you're saying, like things happen for a reason. Yeah. And I believe that.
I believe that.
Persistence.
Yeah. Don't
great.
give up.
Don't give up. And sometimes I've found that it does take buyers like, losing a property a couple of times for them to like really realize like, okay, like I am in this. And like then they get serious.
They gotta be serious. Yeah.
And they're like, yes.
I think that happened for us. With the first property on Otsego, we were like, ooh, too scary, too many unknowns, not sure.
Right.
We ended up buying a house for a lot more money than that one was. Right. And because we were a bit more seasoned in the looking process. Here's something that helped me. And it's helped me in a lot of areas, not just real estate. With big decisions, we have 2 friends, they happen to be married to each other, who we really trust. Their opinion, we trust their advice. We really trust them. And we feel like we're kind of on the same page with a lot in life.
This is Sandy and her husband.
It is.
Yes.
It's Sandy and Tom. We have other friends like we trust too. Kathy and Steven, Lynn and Eric, we trust all of them. But for whatever reason, we keep going back to Sandy and Tom and saying, what do you think about this? I ask Kathy a lot, and I think Bert asks Eric a lot. But for whatever reason, the two of us go to those two people and say, we're thinking about buying this house. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. I mean, we sent Sandy to look at this house. We were like, please go look at this house and tell me what you think. Because I really, really, really trust her brain of the way that she processes and thinks about things. Because, and Kathy too, Kathy, we jokingly say, is a contrarian, not a negative person, but she will look at this bottle and I'll say, oh, it's totally clear. And she'll say, it has a little blue tint to it. And I go, I didn't even see that blue tint. You're right. She'll just see things I don't see. She's that way with everything. She's my co-Girl Scout troop leader. And it's the same way with Girl Scouts. She's like your consigliere. She is. So she's another person I'll say, here's what I'm seeing. What do you see? Mm-hmm. And I think that is a valuable asset that people don't ask for in real estate, because I think real estate can be very private. And I feel that way about finances too. We talk to our friends very openly about our finances. Not everybody, but this core group of friends, because I feel like we feel like, what are you doing with your money? Yeah. This is what we're doing with our money. Let's powwow and figure out the best thing that each of us are doing and how we can maximize our brains, right? I think that would be it was very valuable for us in this, when we finally found this house, and even the house with the elevator. Mm-hmm. I sent Sandy to look at this house because I wanted to know what she thought.
Right.
And because I value her opinion. And I think that's scary for people. I think people are scared to ask people. Has to be the right person.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't be someone you're intimidated by.
Yes.
Or someone you're afraid to tell the absolute truth to. Don't ask that person. Mm-hmm. Ask someone that you have a relationship with where you're totally open. And it was really helpful. Sandy was like, it's an amazing property. And that made me feel so much better about our decision. Even though I didn't need her opinion, It just made me feel better. It confirmed it. And even the house with the elevator, she was like, it's a really nice house. Have issue with the stairs.
Right.
But if you love it, then you should go for it.
Right.
And but that house, it was so overpriced. I kept going, I think this is what it's worth. And you and Jennifer confirmed my thoughts.
Right.
But so did my friend Sandy.
And her husband also.
And her husband also. Yeah. They're like, it's worth this much. And I went, okay. So realtors, you could say, are suspicious people and have their own agenda. I didn't believe that about you guys. But people who have a realtor who may feel they're suspicious somehow when push comes to shove, ask someone you really trust what they think. Mm-hmm. Someone who has some kind of knowledge of the world in some way. They had recently bought a house like a year and a half before. So they had just been through this process and had sort of an idea of what prices were and values. So I don't think we rely on our community enough in that way, as human beings.
Right.
I think people turn to their family too. Like they will ask, like, it's funny from a realtor perspective, there is that moment where you're talking with your buyer and you're like, you're the only one making the decision, right? It's just you, right? Yep, just me. Then you go into the house. Okay, I really like this house. I'm going to put an offer in. Great. Put an offer in, get into escrow. Suddenly there's some uncle.
Right. Like,
there's somebody over here who comes over and says, no,
Yeah.
That's just overpriced. Oh, the foundation's falling apart. And you're like, whoa, who's that?
Right?
Hang on a second. So like that's
the
as a
negative
buyer,
side of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to say it's negative. I'm just saying,
no.
like, when you're a buyer, like, make sure your agent knows who all the players are.
Yeah.
And that way, then you can also be like, oh, okay. So yeah, you're the advisor or you're a yay or nay person. Let's work together.
Right.
Like,
right.
I just like to know who I'm working with.
Yeah, that
here.
makes sense. That makes sense. I don't want to undermine any of that.
Yeah, no, but
sure.
I do agree with you because I think again, it's one of the biggest decisions you're going to make.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really important. And
it can be very scary.
Yes.
And guess what? It's okay to say, I'm a little scared. Will you come look at this with me and tell me what you think?
Yeah.
Because that's I mean, the property we bought is worth quite a bit more than what we're currently living in. It's a big step up for us. And we have to put a lot of money into it. So I was scared about it. So I think it's okay to go to your friend. I'm kind of scared. Yeah. Could you hold my hand, please?
Yeah.
Like that poem about treating each other like you were in kindergarten. Do you guys know that poem?
No.
Oh, it's such the best poem. It's like, I'll have to post it on my website. It lays out like the rules of kindergarten. And if we just applied them to our present day life, how much better we would be to each other. Like sometimes the world is scary and you need to hold hands and walk forward. And that's the truth. And we don't do that in life. We hunker down, we circle the wagons and go, everybody inside. Instead of going, you know what? I have these 3 families I'm such close friends with. I value their opinion for everything. Why wouldn't I ask them what they thought about this house?
Right.
I would do that too. I have some folks like that too, because I don't have a lot of family left. And so there are definitely people in my life that I'm like, please come look at this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. There's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially with a big decision.
Yes.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Even about healthcare, even about,
schools.
Retirement. Schools.
Oh my God. Schools.
Lord help us here.
Oh man.
The rest of the country doesn't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
But LA and probably New York and San Francisco and those big
cities.
It's rough.
You can't do it without a community.
Yeah. No.
You can't do it. You may be able to because you're in a smaller community.
I'm in a community. Yeah.
Yes, you're in a.
And I do rely on my community.
Yeah, totally.
For things.
Yes,
yeah.
but
that's.
I feel very thrown to the wolves out here. Ooh. I still feel like I just got. Isla applied for the same high school that George is going to, and Isla is very dyslexic, so she needs a lot of kind of shoring up. She can do her work. She just needs some shoring up. And I just found out all applications are in for private schools. It's all over. Now it's the decision-making process. I just found this other school right down the street that I knew about that I was like, she's not interested in that school. It's not right for her. They deal with dyslexics like beautifully. And I'm like, motherfucker, all the people I know in this community, I have like 8 families at that school and no one told me. Come on. Help a girl out.
Is it too late?
It's not too late. I'm sure
it's not too late. But
okay.
Whatever.
You always should ask. Always ask.
I think I'm so loud. If you don't know I need the help by this point, I don't know. I mean, everybody knows Isla's dyslexic. Everybody. Mm-hmm. So for somebody to not go, hey, they have this one thing at this school, I was just really surprised. So
it's funny.
My community failed me. Not really. I failed myself by not asking the question. Right. That's right. But anyway. Well, I think this was very helpful.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's so great.
I hope that it makes it less scary for people who have never bought a home or maybe even had a bad experience buying a home. Yeah. Because I've only bought 2 homes. I've never sold a home. I don't know what it's like to sell a home. We're not going to sell this house. We're going to keep it and rent it out. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't know what to expect as a seller. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And I don't think many people walk into a real estate office and go, hey, I have some questions.
Yeah.
How does this work?
They should.
They should. And that's why they should take you up on let's meet for coffee. Let's talk about this first. Let's talk about the process.
That's what we're here. We're here to be of service, and that's our job.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll ask questions, ask away. If you're feeling unsure about something, ask.
Yes.
And if I don't have the answer, I will get you the answer.
That's exactly right.
Well, it's about, honestly, it's about finding the right person.
Yeah.
Because I know we have called many realtors saying, hey, we're looking for office space to rent. What are you looking for? Here's what we're looking for. Never hear from them again. So then that's not the right person. The onus is on you, unfortunately, to find the right therapist, to find the right realtor, to find doctor,
lawyer,
even the right
accountant,
car dealership to buy a car.
Yeah.
That's another place where people are, quote, shady, and they're not all shady.
No.
But it is something where you need that guy. You may as well find
mechanic.
a good one. Mechanic.
That's
you go on, plumber, electrician.
Yep. Yeah.
But,
pretty much anyone in any service industry.
Yeah.
It's right. But
important.
the onus is on you to do that work. It's not on the service provider.
Right.
It really is on you. So if you find the wrong person and you stay with the wrong person, that's your fault.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think if there are some red flags.
The thing that just occurred to me just now, and it's something I think about, but intermittently, is we know so many people. We are actually it is it would behoove you to find somebody that you really like and do stay in touch with them, because I get so many calls and texts after the fact, after my clients move in. Do you have a handyman? Do you have a painter?
Yeah.
Do you have a plumber?
I just did it to Kendra this week.
Yes, it happens all the time. And we have a really, I think, great resources.
Sure.
Because we are not going to recommend somebody who's going to make us look bad.
Correct.
And so we want the best.
We don't want to hear about it later.
That's right. Don't want to hear about it later.
We want it to be clean.
No callbacks.
Yes. So it really does, if you do find the right person, like they are a gold mine.
Yeah.
You know, and they do know great title people and a great lawyer and, you know, a lender. We get asked constantly, do you have a good lender?
Right.
Do you know somebody? Like, endless. So I do think that, like, not only are you finding your great realtor, but you're finding all these other services, you know,
right.
It's just built into the business.
That person is a resource.
Yeah.
Other than just buying or selling a home.
For sure.
I think that's been true with Kendra for sure. I feel like I just texted her this week about asbestos abatement people because I only found one person. I wanted at least 2 bids and she immediately had it for me. So
Actually,
I agree
could
with
use
that.
Kendra.
What'd you say?
I said I could use that.
I will happily give his contact. He's fantastic. He's a great guy.
Oh, he's a very nice person.
It's always a good one.
I haven't got the bid back yet.
That's a good one to have.
He's reasonable and he could do it, you know, whatever way works best for you. Let's just put it that way. You know,
his inspectors were awesome.
Yeah.
They were really awesome.
Okay.
And I liked that. You know, the person that shows up on site says a lot about their boss.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I think this was an awesome podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
oh my God.
you.
It was great.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you
for having
Did you have
me.
fun?
Oh,
Yes.
it was so much fun.
Did you forget there was a microphone?
Sort of.
A little bit.
Kind of hard.
Yeah, right
I feel like
here.
it's
It is up your
there's like
nose.
a learning
like,
curve.
what is,
Yeah.
does this look okay?
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share the
you.
knowledge and experience.
Personal
I
space,
appreciate it.
right?
No personal space.
There's no personal space here.
Well, if we can think of anything else to talk about, you're welcome to come back anytime. So if you
Oh,
have
that'd be
anything else you wanna
great.
talk
I mean,
about.
there's so many aspects, like so many. Whether
I was thinking you should have contractors. You could
Oh,
have
yeah.
Sean and my husband come and
Ah.
talk about construction.
That's a good
I feel
idea.
like that would
Excellent
be so
idea.
fun.
yeah,
You know,
Yes.
so many people.
renovation.
So, not to brag, but when we remodeled our house, I came in 5% over budget.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Ridiculous. That's not going to happen in this new property. I'm already way over budget and I haven't even started. But I don't think I had a full grasp of the scope of this property until we started
Pulling out the weeds.
pulling out the weeds. And then I was like, I definitely underestimated. But so many people have asked me, how did I do that? And I did that very specifically. So maybe I'll podcast with your husband and Sean. That's a really good idea.
I think it would be so fun.
Oh my God,
there's
there's
so
so
much
many
to talk about with
questions.
construction.
So much to talk
Oh,
about.
it's endless. Yeah. The renovation in general is
Right.
just, and then like building a back house and what it means and the permitting and
Right.
what do you have to get permitted versus what you could just do, you know, on
Right.
the fly. Like, oh my gosh, it's a huge topic.
It's a wealth.
Indeed.
A wealth of
That's a
conversation.
multi-part.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do that. I'll reach out and see if they want to do that. That would be really fun.
So fun.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you, Leanne.